For those of you that are going to be recognized tonight, the seats with the reserved are for you. So if you want to sit up front. Thank you everyone for coming. We really appreciate it. I'm gonna call this meeting to order.
Commissioner Lama?
You want a break?
Here.
Commissioner Stuyvesant?
Here.
Commissioner Vizcarra?
Here.
Vice Mayor Joseph?
Here.
Mayor Svechin?
Here.
All members present, ma'am.
Great. Thank you. Everyone, please stand for the honor guard. David, would you lead us in a pledge of allegiance?
I pledge allegiance to the
Flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Please stay standing. Honor guard retired the colors. You may be seated. Before the invocation, I just wanted to mention, we normally don't have the honor guard, but this is in recognition of this being the National Law Enforcement Week. So I wanted to make sure to recognize them. Rabbi Barron, are you doing the invocation for us? Welcome.
Hi, everybody. Good evening.
Hi, Rabbi.
Good to see you. Dear God, Master of the universe, we stand humbled before you this evening as we recognize all of your blessings and that you have bestowed upon us collectively as a community and individually as private citizens. We recognize the blessings of living in a democratic country, and we don't take this for granted. We're mindful of the fact that you have blessed this city with wonderful leadership, direction, dedication, guiding spirit, which has resulted in the many successful achievements over the last 25 years here in Sunny Isles Beach, and we praise you for this. We recognize that we are gathered before you this evening in pursuit of fulfilling your wishes, as you, dear God, empowered humanity with 7 basic universal laws after the great flood of Noah. These laws were once again reaffirmed by Moses at Mount Sinai to be taught to all of humanity, universal laws that provide a framework of law and order and justice, which will allow humanity to settle the earth in a civilized manner. We recognize that we have been entrusted by the citizens of Sunny Isles Beach to perform this sacred duty. We recognize that our decisions will have a lasting impact far into the future, so therefore, Almighty God, please provide us with a consciousness to constantly be aware of your presence, so that we are consistent to our mandate. Please grant us the wisdom, intuition, sensitivity to succeed, so that we leave a legacy of having a positive impact upon society for many generations to come. Please guide our police department and city staff to make the right decisions with honesty, integrity, and knowledge for all of our citizens into the future. And may they continue to serve as positive role models for our beautiful community. Almighty God, we do not take our safety and security for granted. Protect our police force, our servicemen and women serving domestically and overseas in the name of freedom and democracy. Please give them the peace of mind, insight, and intuition to be successful. May everyone gathered here tonight and all the residents of Sunny Isles Beach be granted with good health, peace of mind, and prosperity. And let us say amen.
Amen.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have the approval of minutes.
Yes, these are the minutes for April 20th, 2023 meeting.
I'll take a motion.
Make a motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, the next, Madam Mayor, is the order of business. We just have only one addition. It's a presentation to Spencer Hennings. That'll be heard after item 5A.
Okay, do we need to vote on that?
Yes, please. I
Okay,
need a
I'll take a
motion.
motion to make a change to the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
Okay, great, thank you.
Next item on the agenda is the proclamation presented for Jewish American Heritage Month. I'm not sure if they're here.
Are you playing? They're here.
Okay. Vanessa, could you play the slide, please?
So as you cue that up, first of all, I want to say we have a lot of distinguished people in the audience, and I'm not going to recognize everybody at the same time because you're all here for recognition, and I thank you for being here. May is a national month of a lot of things, but I think it's important to recognize it as the National Jewish American Heritage Month. And this is something that we here in our city, as a city that has such a large Jewish population, and South Florida and Florida having the largest population of Jews compared to anywhere else except for Israel. So we must recognize that. And we are very honored to have the Consul General from Israel here to accept the proclamation. But I'm going to just read something that I did not write. I took this from the Washington, D.C. website because it's written so eloquently. And then, if you don't mind, Maura, if you could also say a few words before we present you the proclamation. So this month, we celebrate the endearing heritage of Jewish Americans whose values, culture, and contributions have shaped our character as a nation. For generations, the story of the Jewish people, one of resilience, faith, and hope in the face of adversity, prejudice, and persecution, has been woven into the fabric of our nation's story. It has driven us forward in our ongoing march for justice, equality, and freedom as we recommit to upholding the principles of our nation's founding and realizing the promise of America for all Americans. For centuries, Jewish refugees fleeing oppression and discrimination abroad have sailed to our shores in search of sanctuary. Early on, they fought for religious freedom, helping define one of the bedrock principles upon which America was built. Union soldiers celebrated Passover in the midst of the Civil War. Jewish suffragists fought to expand freedom and justice, and Jewish faith leaders linked arms with giants of the civil rights movement to demand equal rights for all. Jewish Americans continue to enrich every part of American life as educators and entrepreneurs, athletes and artists, scientists and entertainers, public officials and activists, labor and community leaders, diplomats and military service members, public health heroes, and more. Last year, the White House held the first Jewish New Year reception. During the Hanukkah celebration, they unveiled their very first permanent menorah in the White House, reinforcing the permanency of Jewish culture in America. But there's also a dark side to the celebrated history of the Jewish people, a history marked by genocide, pogroms, and persecution, with a through line that continues in the record rise of anti-Semitism today. We have witnessed violent attacks on synagogues, bricks thrown through windows of Jewish businesses, swastikas defacing cars and cemeteries, Jewish students harassed on college campuses, and Jews wearing religious attire beaten and shot on streets. Anti-Semitic conspiracy theories are rampant online, and celebrities are spouting anti-Semitic hate. These acts are unconscionable and despicable. They carry with them terrifying echoes of the worst chapters in human history. Not only are they a strike against Jews, but they are also a threat to other minority communities and a stain on the soul of our nation. These incidents remind us that hate never truly goes away. It only hides until it is given just a little oxygen. It is our obligation to ensure that hate can have no safe harbor in America and to protect the sacred ideals enshrined in our Constitution: religious freedom, equality, dignity, and respect. That is the promise of America.
Thank you.
I'm still very moved, so allow me to catch my breath. Thank you. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Commissioners. Thank you, distinguished residents of this beautiful town of Sunny Isle Beach. I'm very, very excited to be here again. I was here last year receiving a proclamation, but this year is an especially important milestone in Israel's history. As we say, Israel is 3,000 years old, 75 years young. We are very, very fortunate and grateful to have such a relationship with the United States of America in general and with the state of Florida in particular. I call it the alliance between the Sunshine States because we truly are both Sunshine States. But this did not come easy. As Mayor, as you mentioned, the Jewish people have gone throughout the history, have gone through pogroms and persecutions, and of course the devastating Holocaust and discrimination, and now the rising anti-Semitism. And it is important to note or to say that anti-Semitism is not a problem of the Jews; it is a problem of society. And we should all make sure that we do whatever we need, whatever we can, even if it's a small thing, to address this sick phenomena. But now I actually want to say a word or a sentence about the success of the state of Israel. And truly, in 75 years, we've built such a proud and strong nation that is not perfect. No country or state is perfect. We have our challenges, we have our political issues, we have our societal issues, but there is every reason in the world, for me as an Israel, and I hope to all citizens of the world, to be proud of this success story. Some call it a miracle. I insist that no miracle would happen if it wasn't for the vision and hard work of so many people. My parents immigrated from Morocco when they were young and built their life in the young country who is now in the forefront of any possible research and development and innovation sector you may think of, healthcare and education and homeland security and smart transportation and climate change and everything that you can think of. And we are very, very still ambitious to go on and continue and contribute to the world. And Florida, just 2 weeks ago, I came back from going to Israel with the governor for the second time. Well, for him it was the second time. For me it was the first time to have gone with him to Israel. And I saw how deep the connection between the state of Florida and the state of Israel is. And I am committed to continue and foster this relationship. And I avail myself and the consulate to everybody that want to engage, that want to propose any initiative. I insist on not being this diplomat who sits in the ivory tower, protected with a lot of security, unfortunately, and not reachable, but rather go out and meet the people, engage, and bring the word of Israel and I think of the Jewish people to everyone. So thank you very much for this very celebrative day. I'm very thankful for you having me over here and for the whole resident of Sunny Isle Beach. And let's meet in many other celebrations.
Yeah, don't go away. We're going to
No, I'm not going away.
Proclamation. I just want to mention what we're showing on the screen was all of our past and present elected officials that were Jewish Americans, just in case some of you perhaps didn't know. Commissioner, if you want to come down and take a picture. so just closer. Who's calling me? Okay. So we have a very special presentation that I wanted to make sure that we stayed down here to take a picture. We have someone in the audience that was a part of our family for a long time, Spencer Hennings here with his lovely grandmother, and we wanted to make sure to recognize him. Recently, he has moved on to private sector. He was the condo ombudsman for the state of Florida, and he was very valuable not only to the state but for us personally, because we were the first city that hosted him, where he actually came and met with many of our residents and took the time to discuss things with them that was really way beyond anything that we can do. But he was patient, he was thorough, he was kind, and he was very caring. And I think that he affected the outcomes and the health of a lot of condos, and really helped a lot of condo owners have more faith in the system, in the process, and feel empowered. So I wanted to make sure to recognize you, and the commission wanted to make sure to recognize you, so you know that we didn't forget. And if you ever change your mind and you decide to come back to the public sector, we'd be happy to have you here, and we'll make sure that we'll have an office for you. So please come up so we can take a picture.
Thank you for saying all that, and it was a real pleasure. I had the position for about 3 years, up until a month ago. I joined the Schutz and Bowen law firm, but I will say that the long days and long nights in Sunny Isles Beach are some of the things I'll miss the most about being the condo ombudsman. And you all know that because you actually came out to the condo elections. You know, you guys really care about your residents and the residents' issues here. And of course, you have so many condominiums in Sunny Isles Beach that there's no shortage of condos here. And then there's no shortage of issues that need to be resolved in those condos, as you all know. But Mayor, I just want to say a special thank you to you, because you may not know it, but I think that you were one of the significant reasons why I was even appointed by the governor and had the opportunity to do it. Because about a year before my appointment, you went up to Tallahassee, you knocked on the door of the secretary of the DBPR and said, hey, we have a lot of condos, we need some help, we want to partner with the state. Fast forward a year, I was appointed. I guess they heard you, and their plan was to get a new condo ombudsman that was in South Florida. And soon after that, I believe it was Senator Pizzo that put us in touch, so thank you, Senator Pizzo. And we brokered an agreement between my office and the city, where I came every other Monday, and it was a real pleasure working with all of you. It's what I'm going to miss the most about the job. Thank you so much.
And because Mr. Hennings was part of our family for a while, I want to also mention he is also a Jewish American. We didn't have your picture up there, but technically you weren't elected here, so. Okay. Mr. Clerk, I realize we didn't play our opening statement.
I was just about to remember.
Yeah, let's do that, please.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome and thank you for being here tonight. Please turn off or mute any electronic devices to avoid interrupting these proceedings. In all issues that come before the City Commission, We ask that everyone show mutual respect for one another by listening quietly to each person speaking, and that everyone refrain from any clapping, heckling, or verbal outbursts in favor or in opposition to a speaker. Individuals that do not adhere to Chapter 74, Rules of Procedure of the Code, particularly Section 74-21, decorum, shall be barred from further appearance before the Commission. Individuals who want to speak on any item on the agenda are asked to fill out a public speaker's card and give it to the city clerk before the item is called. Speakers are asked to speak to the issues, make comments concise and to the point, and refrain from making duplicate comments. All speakers will be limited to 3 minutes. If you speak out of turn without permission from the chair and/or do not cease speaking after one warning, you will be escorted out of the chambers.
Great, thank you. I just want to add to that. I was reviewing our charter because of some of the things we had on our agenda, and I wanted to make sure that I paid special attention to sort of the Citizen Bill of Rights and what our the public and whomever comes here has an expectation of, and what my responsibility is here as your mayor and as the chair, which is to hear you and to give you the opportunity to speak. So I want to take every opportunity to remind you to please fill out a public speaking card. If you do not fill out a public speaking card, you will not be given the opportunity to speak. You will be given 3 minutes to speak on all these items, but I do want to remind you that we will stick to strict decorum. Everything is through the chair, which is through me, and there will be no personal attacks on anyone on this commission or to this body. You will respect this body. I will give you one warning if you do not, and then you will be asked to leave. With that being said, I recognize that we have some state representatives here who feel very strongly about the First Amendment, as do I. So I want to make sure that you do understand we want you to have the opportunity to speak on every item if you choose to, but please do it with respect and understanding that you have the 3 minutes. Next item.
Next item on the agenda is 5B, legislative updates by Senator Pizzo.
Welcome, Senator.
Of the 20 cities and 560,000 people I represent, this is the most fun for me because I get to say this. Hi, Jason Pizzo, 330 and 200 Sunny Isles Boulevard. That doesn't make me get 6 minutes, though, just because I have two. Hi, Ed, Norman, Lou. Good news, bad news. This is my 7th City Commission meeting in the past 7 days. We've also had 3 town halls and 2 large association meetings. We expect to have a number more this summer. All of you and I have not, City Manager and I have not been able to sit down and speak. Mayor and Commission, thank you always for being accessible and available. A couple good news things, couple bad news things. Short-term rental for the 5th year in a row has failed. The third to last day of session, I had asked a very simple question to the bill sponsor in the Senate on 714 whether the 3 violations that were enumerated that could qualify as a censure or suspension of a license could all happen in one day. He said yes. I guess the House was listening because they came back and said no, now it has to be 5 separate violations over 5 separate calendar days. I said, come on, man. And then the bill failed. So I'm happy to report that. There are also some other local ordinance bills like 170, which continue to strip away at your local authority. And I am a fervent believer in those who govern closest, govern the best. And so we continue to push back against that. On a funding perspective, Representative Bassabane, I think we're able to secure $225,000 for the urban trail. And again, I go back to the fact that I'm a resident. As many of you know, I have identical twin 16-year-old boys who I like to think drive nicely on these streets, but this is home, guys. So of the 20 cities I represent, 46-mile coastline from Sunny Isles all the way up to the Palm Beach County line, it's an absolute pleasure to be able to serve all of you. So happy to take any questions. And again, SB 154 was a very large condo bill. It was the glitch bill, and this Senator Pasadomo, the Senate President, I think Mayor may have actually been there around this time, called it the Pizzo Amendment. For those of you who have citizens, you were required to get flood insurance, even if you were on the 25th floor, which made absolutely no sense. So we stomped and stammered a little bit, and we got that removed and repealed in 2 bills in 799 as well as in 154. A series of town halls, like I mentioned, that we're holding are going to be on condos. I need to be able to explain to everybody. We're fielding all types of questions. We were at Moe's the other day in Aventura, and 150 people showed up. So things like pooling and what fully funding means for reserves and milestone inspections and all that. So please, of course. And most of you have it, but I serve all of you behind me. Hi, Ed. My cell phone number is 305 505 8478. Only half of this room doesn't
Can we
have
put that
number.
on the website?
Sure. 505-8478. This is supposed to be a part-time legislature, but we do 60 to 80-hour weeks. And we love what we do, and as long as the public will have me, we'll continue to serve. So happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Senator. I just want to acknowledge your chief staff, Kayla. Thank you for being, yes, thank you for being here. Any questions, Commissioner Vizcarra?
And I do have to introduce, most of you know Kayla, who's standing in the back, Kayla Francis. Started as an intern with us when she was 19, and now our district aide is Olivia Kalari. Olivia, would you stand up and say hello? Olivia is Commissioner Kalari's of Hollywood's daughter, and also the daughter of a retired law enforcement officer from Hollywood, so we appreciate having her here as well.
Welcome.
Hi.
Hi.
I know that a lot of your work doesn't get seen, and I don't know if our residents are aware, but we're so lucky to have you. You do your homework, you work really hard for us. We really appreciate everything you do, and I don't think I can ask more of you, so I'm just grateful that you represent us.
Thank you. Which serves as a wonderfully natural segue into, it is my distinguished honor and pleasure, and having been the recipient of this award myself, it's you have to earn it. For being a champion in the defense and protection of municipal home rule, the Florida League of Cities presents the 2023 Home Rule Hero Award to Commissioner Jennifer Vizcarra.
Take a picture downstairs.
No, go down and take a picture.
Yes.
You earn it.
Wasn't there something else for Senator Pizzo? No?
No.
Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, now we have our next item. Thank you, Representative Basavi. Thank you, Senator Pizzo. Welcome.
Nice to see everyone. Good evening. I'm Fabian Basavi, your State House Representative for District 106, which is all of our coastal cities from Fisher Island, Miami Beach, all the way down to County Line past Golden Beach, and then cross over the bridge, Aventura, back towards Miami Shores. First time in politics. Don't know what I got myself into, but I'm having a great time. I have to tell you, the reception that I had in Tallahassee was spectacular. There are so many good-hearted people really ready to do the work. And I want to thank all of you, because it's true what the senator says and what you mentioned. A lot of people don't realize the real work it takes to do this thing called community service. And I'm grateful to all of you and all the cities that I represent. We have some really honorable, hardworking people trying to make life better every day for everyone. And it's tremendous, because this is not a part-time gig by any means. Yeah. So I'll give you a little bit of a legislative update. I come with more good news than bad news. I had some very aggressive bills that I quickly learned the tricks of the trade, getting them into bills that were moving quickly. So we've got about $200 million coming back in for the state for wastewater management grant bill that I had that was absorbed into the DEP package. That's going to help us fix a lot of our pipes underground that are breaking into our waterways. And then throughout the state, we'll be fixing a lot of septic to sewer stuff, which I can't believe still exists. I've got a crime prevention and intervention bill that was absorbed into the governor's budget at $5 million so that we can start addressing crime and homelessness. We're going to need some tough love approach to that because we all have big hearts and we understand that homelessness is a serious issue that we're facing, but it is inhumane to let people live the way they are. There is help out there, and most of the people that want help, they've already made their way to the services available. The people that are existing now, they truly just don't know that they need the help. And we need to be sensitive, but we need to be strong and get them the help that they need and make sure that they, they move forward in life, to be productive members of society. It was good to see Consul General here for Israel. He left before I got to say this, but I'm sure he's well aware. I'm a proud co-sponsor of House Bill 269, which a lot of the things that we're mentioning, I was surprised and shocked to know that level of ignorance still exists, and anti-Semitism is real, and there's some very aggressive legislation and language in this bill that makes everything that you discussed a heightened crime. There is no place for hate in the state of Florida, and we will strongly enforce this law along with all the other quality of life laws that exist. And thank you for recognizing our law enforcement officers. Spending time with them through the campaign and getting to know them better throughout this process. I am so honored for the men and women that put on those uniforms and protect our cities and serve our communities daily. And I'm especially grateful to their families who wait at home to make sure that they, they're welcome back and expected, and hopefully all in one piece. So thank you to our law enforcement officers. I'm going to be also, my office is putting a lot of attention towards the crime rates, and you all know I live in Miami Beach, and we've got a little bit of a problem over there. So we're addressing crime. We're in a law and order state. We have laws, and they will be enforced, and we'll be paying special attention to the prosecution's office and make sure that they're prosecuting these crimes. We cannot demoralize our police by having people just in and out of cells 6 hours later, back on the streets, offending, insulting, and terrorizing the same people, from the evening before. I know the senator mentioned Bill 170. I know there's some aggressive legislation. A lot of it is a bit some of it's a bit preemptive. I think that with well-run cities, it shouldn't have too much of an impact, and you guys surely know what you're doing up here. So I really appreciate that. Of all the 13 cities I represent, you're one of my favorites. So it's really nice to see you all. I'm open to any questions. There's so much more. I should address a little bit, and maybe you all can help me with this going forward, explaining a little bit the legislative process to people. It was also surprising when I had to learn it, by just getting deeply immersed into it through the process up in Tallahassee, but people are just unaware. What they see is the end result, kind of that house floor date with the theater that occurs on that day, but that's not at all what it's about. You've got 3 committee stops. Bills have to be worked on. You never have a perfect bill to start, but if you vote bills forward with the agreement that you can participate in that language, in the House we only get 7 bills to run, so a lot of the bills that I worked on were not mine. But I had a voice to be a part of them because I voted them forward, and the sponsors allowed me access to them so that I can improve the language so that they understand the needs and the concerns of this district. So I did the best I could on the bills that I worked on, and I hope that people can try to understand that process so that by the time they get to the House floor, sometimes how they're marketed is not exactly what they're representing, and I encourage people to read the bills, especially if they're going to be directly impacting your life. Read the bills. You might be somewhat surprised that you might be a little misinformed. It is a lot of reading, though, so I understand. But yeah, any questions I can do, it's really been a privilege and a pleasure. I thank you all for your support throughout my candidacy, and I look forward to getting in. We got our appropriations, as the senator mentioned. Let's put in for some more, because they were kind of greenlighting a lot for me up there.
Okay. We'll make sure to do that.
Make that
Thank
Christmas,
you.
and thank you for visiting. It's when you guys come up and visit in Tallahassee, it just shows that partnership that we have working together, and they really appreciate seeing that, and it really does mean a lot. It's all about partnerships. So thanks.
Commissioner Stephenson, did you have any questions?
Not really.
Did you want to say anything?
Well, thank you. And this is your first year. This is my second year, so I know it's a hard learning process. I like what you say, that Florida is not a place for hate. Sunny Isles is the same. So thank you for working on that. And I know you're doing an outstanding job. Thank you for taking my phone calls, my text messages, sometimes late at night when I was asking you for some beer so thank you for that communication. So I really appreciate your job. I know your family missed you a lot here. You were gone for a long time. And again, thank you for your service.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And if I may, honor you with an award as our home rule hero.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Representative.
Thank you, Fabian.
Deputy Manager, I'm getting messages that this is it's not being live streamed still. There's a problem with the YouTube. If we could just check that. Oh. No, that's fine. It's recorded. It's on? Oh. Okay, so maybe that was an old message. Thank you. That was fast. Thank you. Okay. On to our next presentation. Thank you again, Representative.
Next one is 5D, the fiscal year 2021-2022 audit presentation.
Have a safe trip back.
Absolutely.
Just gonna distribute these really quickly.
All mine. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Honorable Mayor and Commission, I'm happy to report that the fiscal year 21-22 audit has been completed. Markham, which was our new audit firm for that fiscal year, actually did a great job. The transition went really well. We actually have 3 representatives here from Markham. We have Moises Ariza, who is the audit partner. We have Nicholas Martin, who is the audit manager, and Marcos Gallo Salgado, who is the audit senior. Moises is going to deliver a brief presentation, and then you can ask any questions.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, Honorable Mayor, City Commission, and meeting attendees. My name is Mo Ariza, and I serve as the audit partner for the fiscal year 2022 audit. And my colleague, Nick Martin, standing here with me, served as the audit manager. We're here today to present the results of our audit, and what was provided was a copy of the annual comprehensive financial report. I'm going to make reference to certain printed page numbers if you'd like to follow along. So if you turn with me to printed page 1, you'll find our independent auditor's report. The first paragraph in the report makes reference to what we've audited. We've audited the financial statements of the city of Sunny Isles Beach for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2022. The most important paragraph in printed page 1 is the opinions paragraph that reads as follows. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the respective financial position of the governmental activities, business type activities, and each major fund of the city as of September 30th, 2022. In regards to what we performed as an external auditor, this is a clean opinion, or also known as unmodified opinion, and it's the highest regard that one could receive. And it's the only opinion you as an elected body want to be associated with. So congratulations to the city the mayor, the city commission, the city manager's office, and the finance department for receiving a clean opinion on the fiscal year September 30th, 2022 audit. Following the auditor's report, if you turn with me to printed page 5, you'll find the management discussion and analysis. And this is known as the MD&A. And the MD&A, I suggest if you were to read any section of this report, which is over 100 pages, in its entirety, I would suggest you read the MD&A. It's 11 pages, and it pretty much summarizes your current year activity versus your prior year activity. And not only does it provide quantitative information of what the fluctuations are, it provides qualitative information of what is driving those fluctuations or driving those transactions or driving those changes. The MD&A was put together by the finance department and city manager's office. So again, it provides very useful information not only to current year, prior year activity, but also forward-looking into the future and where the city plans to be in the upcoming budget year. Following the MD&A, if you turn with me to printed page 17, you'll have the statement of net position. This is the closest statement you'll find to a balance sheet. The reason you don't call it a balance sheet is because under government accounting standards, this statement does not balance. It nets to net position. And net position is another word for equity. You start off with your assets, consider your deferred outflows and liabilities, and the ending equity is your net position. I wanted to point out that the unrestricted net position in your governmental activities is north of 51.7 million. And one of the things that we like to do is to compare that to your general fund, which your general fund closed out total expenditures of 31.7 million. So that's just to point out you have a healthy unrestricted fund and net position balance for future expenses. Following the financial statements, there's additional reports that I want to make reference to. In the later part of the report, if you follow along with me to printed page 109. On printed page 109, you'll find our internal controls report. We make reference to what an internal control deficiency is, the difference between a material weakness and a significant deficiency. And pleased to mention that at the bottom, we mentioned that we have no material weaknesses or significant deficiencies to report. We're precluded to report any material weaknesses or significant deficiencies in a verbal manner. We're required to do so in writing. If there was any to report, we will use this as a tool. But again, pleased to mention that there was none to report. And then on page 110, we make reference to our compliance paragraph. And yes, this is a financial audit, and we're looking at the accuracy and completeness of the financial statements and the amounts that are being reported. But given the fact that we're driven by the rules and regulations of the Florida Auditor General, we're also looking at compliance, making sure that the city has complied with its budget documents, making sure that it has complied with its procurement policies and procedures, making sure you have and follow competitive bidding rules. And pleased to mention that based on the samples and testing results, we have no items of non-compliance to report. So again, pleased to mention that. Separate and apart from that, if you turn with me to printed page 114. On printed page 114, you'll find the schedule of expenditures of federal awards. And the purpose of this schedule is to report what federal awards have been expended by the city of Sunny Isles. So there was over $6 million of federal awards that were received by the city and consumed by the city during fiscal year 2022. The biggest portion of that being the CARES Act, the Coronavirus State and Local Fiscal Recovery Fund, also known as ARPA. And that was the program that we tested. Of the ARPA funding that was received, the program reported $5.4 million of coronavirus expenditures. We tested the expenditures, and what does that mean? When you receive ARPA funding, you cannot use it for any activity or any expense. There's very limited activity and expense that it could be used for. So we ensure that the expenses that are being used to and funded by ARPA funds are properly allowed under the grant agreement. So if we had any issues or what is known as unallowable costs, we're required to report to the funding agency, and they might have the ability to request a refund or to reallocate funds. So based on our testing, we did not find any unusual activity or any what is known as disallowed activity. So in essence, we're reporting to the funding agency that the ARPA funds that were received by the City of Sunny Isles were properly used and consumed for the proper purpose. Following that, we also have a requirement as stipulated on printed page 120, where we are supposed to and we're required to, at the direction of the Florida Auditor General, to compare you to your peers. And what does that mean? The City of Sunny Isles is compared to what is known as their peers, and the Florida Auditor General provides us your peers. Your peers are the City of Aventura, City of Hallandale Beach, City of Key West, City of Marco Island, City of Naples, City of Rivera Beach, and City of Winter Park. The reason that they identified these as your peers is based on population of the municipality and also based on total property valuable, taxable property values. So we compare you to your peers, not to grade you from first place to last place, but to compare you in regards if there's any unusual or concerning activity regarding your financial indicators, regarding liquidity and future funding to operate and for future commitments to your citizens. Any issues that we come across are required to be reported under Florida Statute 218, Section 503, and as mentioned in our report on page 120, we have no issues regarding your financial health to report to the Florida Auditor General. Separate and apart from the Annual Comprehensive Financial Report, also known as the ACFR, we release our communication letter. Just to mention, yes, we are here in the month of May presenting, but this audit was completed over a month ago and was released. So this is just a formal presentation, but this has already been provided to the Florida Auditor General and also the GFOA. The GFOA is a national organization that the City of Sunny Isles provides this financial statement, and that's another layer of review and approval to ensure that the financial statements are complete and accurate. I'm going to hand it over now to my colleague Nicholas Martin, and he's going to go over the communication letter that was released on April 28th, and it's pretty much a summary of our results and some other required communication. Nick.
Thank you, Mo. Good evening, Honorable Mayor and City Commissioners. As Mo mentioned, I'm just going to briefly go over the communication letter that was provided to you along with the ACFR. Just to highlight a few items, the first item I'd like to mention is that there was no changes in accounting policies for the current year. However, with one exception of a new required standard, which was called GASB 87, which is regarding the reporting and accountability of leases. This is a new standard that was applicable to all municipalities, not just the city. Next item I would like to point out is that we are required to communicate if there was any difficulties encountered throughout the audit. I would like to, I'm pleased to mention that there was no difficulties encountered throughout the audit. The next point I would like to mention is another requirement is that we're required to communicate if we come across any disagreements with management regarding any financial accounting reporting or any auditing matters. And at this point, I'd like to thank Tiffany and Natalie for assisting us throughout the audit, as we didn't encounter any disagreements. Lastly, I would like to point out, as Mo had mentioned, on different parts of throughout our audit, we are required to communicate if we come across any findings or issues throughout the audit, and we are pleased to communicate that there was no findings. Thank you.
We'll open it up now if you have any questions or any comments to make. We'll be happy to address them.
Vice Mayor, do you have any questions?
Actually, I'm quite satisfied with the results and actually delighted that the city and the management is doing an excellent job. Appreciate it.
Yeah, I'll share the same sentiment. So, yeah, thank you very much. I know it's a lot of work. Thank you.
Commissioner Vizcarra.
Hello. Yeah, I did have some questions. You've touched on some of them.
Okay.
But let me just kind of go through my notes and
Okay.
I apologize if any of it is repetitive. In your letter, first of all, thank you, welcome aboard. And, we appreciate the fresh eyes. and your good work. When you mentioned the one change in the number 87 regarding the
Yes.
leases, why was that a change in the way that things are
Okay.
normally done?
So the city follows certain accounting standards. Those accounting standards are prescribed by authoritative board, which is known as the Government Accounting Standards Board. And they issue new guidance on how to account for leases. There was inconsistencies in practice in general governments and local municipalities on how to account for leases. So they wanted to clarify and provided new accounting standards. When that occurred, the city was required to review the accounting that was done previously for leases, just for proper accounting and valuation of its assets, liabilities, deferred outflows, and inflows. It was not unique to the city of Sunny Isles, but we reviewed the implementation to ensure that it prescribed with GASB 87, not only for the accounting, but there was new footnote disclosures. Within the document, there's new paragraphs that are being disclosed regarding the lease agreements. So if you were to compare this document to prior years, there is additional pages, and that's because of GASB 87.
Okay, so is it fair to say because the rules changed a little bit, we had to make adjustments in how we do things? Is that a fair
And
statement?
how you account for the items.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. My next question, you mentioned in the letter, let me see. Okay, when you say no new accounting policies were adopted and the application of existing policies was not changed during the fiscal year ending in 2022,
Correct.
the leases obviously aside,
Aside.
does that mean it's not that it didn't change from the previous year? Or are you looking at a history of years or just the last year?
So we came on board for fiscal year 2022. The city issued an RFP and we were awarded the contract. The audit standards require us to not only look at the current year, but we do have to look at opening balances, which is where did the previous auditors leave us at? So what does that require? We required to meet with them, and they were gracious enough to open their records. And they opened their records, and we reviewed them, not only for two things, to get an understanding of the city and have a starting point, but also to ensure that we felt comfortable with their work product. If we don't feel comfortable with their work product under our professional standards, we have to go back and re-audit the information. We felt comfortable with their work product, and they were very gracious enough to share some information, some insight that allowed us to properly compare prior year activity to current year activity. We had no concerns with our starting point.
Okay, so is it then fair to say that from one year to the next, it was largely status quo in terms of our policies? Is that a fair statement? Except for the leases
Yes,
issue?
that would be correct.
Okay. Let me see, what else did I have? You touched on page 17, so I think we can leave that. I think my takeaway from that is financially, we're very strong.
Yes.
Okay. And let me see what else. And I guess my overall takeaway, and please correct me if I'm wrong, the budget is an estimate, right? It's an educated guess of what we expect to come in and what we expect to
Okay.
go out.
Okay.
And my takeaway from this report is that our finance department was on target with their estimates. Is that a fair statement?
Correct. So,
Okay.
correct. So what are we required to do and report on? If you read our opinion, we say that the information here is accurate, complete, and somebody could rely on it. That is reference to the statement. In regards to the budget, what is our requirement? The first thing that we do is when we're testing that budget is to ensure that there's proper allocation. When an expense comes in, are they properly allocating to a certain budget line item? But our process is to, based on what the elected body approved, we compare the activity to make sure that it's properly coded and that to ensure that the expenses that are being paid out by the city were properly budgeted by the elected body. If I come across an expense that I don't see was budgeted, what is my requirement to do? I have to either look for a budget amendment to make sure that it was budgeted for, or that an explanation is provided. As mentioned, we have a budget to actual throughout the statement for the special revenue funds and the general fund, and we have no concerns with the activity as compared to the budget that was approved by the elected body.
Okay, and my last question, and
Yes.
thank you for that. Is there any oversight over you?
Over what we perform?
Yes.
Correct, yes. So not only an internal, I as the partner licensed in the state, I'm able to sign off on this, but at the firm, it requires 2 partners to sign off. So you actually have a second layer of review. Outside of the audit firm, this document is sent to the Florida Auditor General. And they also look at the review, and they could question our work product, our results, and our testing work papers. Outside of that, that's layer number 1. The second layer is the GFOA, which is the Government Finance Officers Association, which this document has already been submitted to. We expect in maybe 4 to 5 months to receive a letter from them with their comments. They could either say, we accept as is, or we have 2 suggestions or 2 corrections, or can you please share more information regarding a certain page. And the last layer...
And that's something, obviously, that then you would share with us?
Correct.
Right?
Correct. And yes, we're required to do so. And then the last and final layer is a peer review. So we are regulated by the AICPA, the American Institute of Certified Public Accountants. And every 3 years, and sometimes every 2 years, they'll have an audit firm come and audit us. So they audit the auditors, and they come back and they might select this file, they might select another municipality's file, they select many, many files. And we have to open our books and records, and they come back with suggestions or questions about our audit approach and our audit results. If they select the city of Sunny Isles and they review and they have suggestions and recommendations, I too will share them with you.
Okay. I think I'm done. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner Viscar. Commissioner Stewardson, do you have questions?
This audit is going to be published so people can have access to it? Yeah. Do we have it in our website? Or is not there yet?
It's not there yet. We have to make it accessible first.
Okay.
It has to go through a process to be remediated for those that are vision impaired. So it's not there yet, but yes, we'll definitely get it.
Okay, thank you. Because I've seen it for the first time, so I'm just trying to read very fast on it. I don't have my questions right now, but I guess if I have any question, I will contact you or read it in the next meeting. I'm going through it as fast as I can, and I might have some questions, but I don't have it at this time. So at this time, I have no comments.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for your report. I just have a question, actually, probably from our finance director. In the past, this report was completed earlier in the year. I think it was the end of January, around that time. Are we going back to an earlier schedule?
Well, with the transition, it's usually a bit longer with new auditors. And in the past, it actually, last year it was April. Before that, I believe it was around March or April. But we are shooting for sooner, but realize there's a portion of this that must come from the state, FRS, Florida Retirement System.
Right.
We don't get that until January.
Okay.
So it's really hard to do that now. In the past, many, many years ago, when I first started, we did not have that FRS requirement, so it was much easier to get it done by January, February.
What do you think our estimate for next year? Because we're going to be using the same firm.
Yes, definitely.
Okay. What would you be your estimate for next year?
I mean, we can shoot for March.
March? Okay.
March.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Next item?
Next item is 5E. It's the Government Finance Officers Association Distinguished Budget Award and Excellence in Financial Reporting Award.
Honorable Mayor and Commission, I think this is probably a great segue to our audit presentation. I have more good news. The city has been recognized as a recipient by the Government Finance Officers Association, a recipient of the Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for fiscal year 2022-2023, and also a recipient of the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting Award for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2021. Both of these awards have been presented to our finance department. So I really want to shine the spotlight on them. These are individuals who work diligently behind the scenes every day. These awards are a testament to their hard work and efforts and our significant accomplishments. Before I continue, though, I'd like to also thank all the department heads and their staff for their collaboration, especially with the budget document, as well as say thank you to the commission and the city manager and his office for your leadership. And then I'd like to read the press releases for each award and then call each of the members up. Okay, so the first award, the Government Finance Officers Association is pleased to announce that the City of Sunny Isles Beach has received GFOA's Distinguished Budget Presentation Award for its budget. The award represents a significant achievement by the entity. It reflects the commitment of the governing body and staff to meeting the highest principles of governmental budgeting. In order to receive the budget award, the entity had to satisfy nationally recognized guidelines for effective budget presentation. These guidelines are designed to assess how well an entity's budget serves as a policy document, a financial plan, an operations guide, and a communications device. Budget documents must be rated proficient in all 4 categories, and in the 14 mandatory criteria within those categories to receive the award. When a Distinguished Budget Presentation Award is granted to an entity, a certificate of recognition for budget presentation is also presented to the department designated as being primarily responsible for having achieved the award. This has been presented to the Finance Department. There are over 1,700 participants in the Budget Awards program. The most recent Budget Award recipients, along with their corresponding budget documents, are posted quarterly on GFOA's website. Award recipients have pioneered efforts to improve the quality of budgeting and provide an excellent example for other governments throughout North America. And the next release. The Government Finance Officers Association of the United States and Canada has awarded the Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting to the City of Sunny Isles Beach for its annual comprehensive financial report for the fiscal year ended September 30th, 2021. The report has been judged by an impartial panel to meet the high standards of the program, which includes demonstrating a constructive spirit of full disclosure, to clearly communicate its financial story and motivate potential users and user groups to read the report. The Certificate of Achievement is the highest form of recognition in the area of governmental accounting and financial reporting, and its attainment represents a significant accomplishment by a government and its management. So at this time, I'd like to call forward each of the members of the Finance Department, starting with our Assistant Finance Director, Natalie Obando. Our Purchasing Manager, Genesis Cuevas. Our Senior Accountant, Brandon Popescu. Sorry, Brandon. Purchasing Agent, Anastasia Nefedova. Our Senior Accounting Technician, Elena Pavlova. Our accounting technicians, our accounting technicians, Jose Palacios and Laura Hurtado. And our finance intern, Kathleen Sheldon. So these are the individuals that put forth their best effort every day, making it possible for the city to receive these 2 awards. I, along with the city, appreciate all that you do and say thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Yes. I just wanted to mention the person that Tiffany did not acknowledge is herself. So thank you for your leadership, Tiffany, and obviously it could never be done without you. So we appreciate you. Thank you. All right. Next item, please, City Clerk.
Next item is 5F, the National Association of Government Communicators Blue Pencil Gold Screen Award.
Mayor?
Yes, please.
This is an award that goes to our media department. The Blue Pencil and Gold Screen Awards are an annual awards program that recognizes excellence in government communications. Listed as one of the 21 most coveted government leadership awards, this award has various categories that recognize communication channels that governments use to provide information to the public. This year, our media division received an award in the print magazine category, specifically for Live and Play. So we wanted to recognize the media department and specifically the work of Dora Lee and Vanessa under the leadership of Leah. So we have a, Myra, do you have that? No. Mayor has it, sorry. Mayor, if you could, we'll have, ask Leah to come up and get it, as well as Dora Lee.
Why don't we all come down?
Yeah, come on down. Yeah, Myra's going to take the picture. Thank you, Myra. Thank you. Thank you. Mayor, could you, Mayor, sorry, Mayor, can I ask you to stay for, the budget department to come up as well, the finance, take a picture with them? Come on up, guys.
Okay, thank you. Next item, please.
5G is the Mental Health Awareness Month and useful resource reminders.
Thank you. Commissioner Lama?
Yep. Well, again, thank you to our media and finance departments for their awards. Great job. I know it's a lot of work, so, but now I wanted to just bring up that May is National Mental Health Awareness Month. And I think it's very important to highlight and bring to the forefront the importance of mental health, especially that, you know, we've been through a lot the past 3 years with the COVID pandemic, and now, you know, with all the economic and social issues, isolation, a lot of anxiety disorders too. So I think it's something that should be given the importance that is required, and that cannot be taken lightly. I mean, it needs to be confronted with a lot of, let's say, grit, you know, from society as a whole, from us as individuals, and everybody as a community. And I wanted to give you some stats here, not to scare anybody, but just to bring awareness of how severe this issue is. So the second leading cause of death among people 15 to 24 is suicide now. The numbers have been going up. I think that at the beginning of this year, they declined a little bit, but it's still the second leading cause among that age group. 1 in 5 adults experiences mental illness yearly, and less than half receive treatment. 42.5 million Americans suffer from anxiety disorders. 20% of all teens suffer from depression before they reach adulthood. And 55% of US counties do not have a single practicing psychiatrist. This is shocking, and it's unacceptable, to be honest with you. And almost 6 in 10 people with mental illnesses do not get treatment, and more than 40,000 Americans die annually from suicide. So, you know, we may sit here and say, well, yeah, I think it's foreign to me or it's foreign to my family, but it is not. You know, it's very common. It is, I think it's touched all of us, whether it's us personally, our family, loved ones, friends, etc. But the best thing that we could do as a society is either seek help, or to offer help when you see someone that perhaps is going through some sort of mental disorder or mental health issue. You need to remember that you are not alone. There's always someone there that is willing to help, always someone there for you. And something important to keep in mind, and please remember this number. Now the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline, the number changed. Now it is 988, okay? You could dial that number if you're going through some sort of distress or some crisis, or if you're having suicidal thoughts. Or you could go online to 988lifeline.org, and you could, you know, chat with someone live that could help someone or yourself. There's a campaign going on right now. I don't know if you've seen it while I was doing my research, and I think this is very on point, you know, for people to remember that you are enough. And, you know, you need to remind yourself of that. And I want you right now to tell yourself in your minds, you don't have to say it out loud, I am enough. So please keep that in mind, and keep that number in mind, 988. That is the Suicide and Crisis Lifeline. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Lama. Okay, next item.
Next item is 7A, an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Sunny Isles Beach, Florida, amending Section 265-5, definitions of the Land Development Code to revise the definition of the term waterfront, providing for repealer, providing for severability, providing for codification, providing for an effective date. And this is first reading.
Okay, and for those of you that were not here for their LPA, I, again, am going to recuse myself. I cannot be present during this conversation because there's a code of ethics. Legally, I have a conflict because this decision affects me personally because I own in that building. So I'll be back.
Mayor, can you remind the public to please, if they want to speak to the issue, to fill out a card? I know that someone raised their hand before, and I don't know if that person wants to speak. Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner Lamas. So yes, please make sure to fill out your speaking card. And I turn over the gavel to the Vice Mayor.
Thank you.
Amy, would you please?
Okay, thank you. Good evening, Vice Mayor and Commissioners. This ordinance for first reading is regarding the waterfront lot definition that was just presented during the local planning agency meeting. To recap, the Land Development Code has a definition for waterfront that is not clear, and the proposed definition clarifies the term to eliminate any ambiguity. And it states that a waterfront lot must have at least 75% of one lot line abutting a body of water. I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Vice Mayor, before we take discussions amongst the commission, can we take the public comment portion of it?
Yes, please. Anyone with that would like to speak on this issue?
Yes.
Have you turned in your forms?
Yeah, I have one speaker, Dennis Stublo.
And also, Mauricio, if you can do the ex parte disclosures as well.
Okay.
Hi,
are
my
there-
name's Dennis Stubalo,
I'm
Winston
sorry,
Towers,
Dennis, give me-
600.
Dennis, give me 1 second.
Oh,
I'm sorry.
sorry.
Are there any ex parte communications that need to be disclosed?
No.
No.
Yes, yes. I spoke to Mr. Stubalo outside of the chambers, yeah.
Thank you. Dennis, go ahead.
Okay. All right. I understand that the only building that we're discussing really with this ordinance is Winston Tower 600. Is that correct? In the whole city of Sunny Isles Beach?
Not sure.
Anybody can answer that for me?
This is public comment section, so it's not.
Oh, I
question
can't,
and answer.
okay. Anyway, I understand that we're the only building that this pertains to in the whole city of Sunny Isles Beach. I understand that we have, I think, 45% instead of the 75, and I don't know what percentage was before today, but I don't know why this, after all these years that we've been in Sunny Isles Beach, why this commission would bring this subject up about our building that now has to be 75% to be waterfront property. I don't know. I mean, I just don't, I mean, why couldn't we just keep going the way it's been all these years? Now, all of a sudden, it's going to be 75%. Why didn't we say 65% or 95%? Where did the 75% come from? I think there's more questions to be answered before you guys really vote on this, so we know really what this is all about. Because right now, we're a little confused. And I would appreciate if you could just cancel this for today and give it back to us so we would really get more information about it. But thank you.
Thank you, Dennis.
That's it for public comments.
Okay, so we have it opened up for discussion amongst the commissioners. Okay, so does anyone have any comment?
Well, I don't think it's only about Winston Tower 600. I think there's other properties, correct, that are affected with this change in language, or let's say clear definition.
Amy?
Yeah.
Do you have clarification?
Yeah, go ahead, Amy. Just provide a brief clarification. Then I'm going to ask legal if they would just give us a brief summary.
So the term waterfront is applied in the comprehensive plan to properties in the medium-high density residential land use category. And that's implemented by the Land Development Code. And there's two zoning districts, the Town Center District and the RMF2 zoning districts that utilize the term waterfront when applying a specific bonus program, which is the Public Streetscape Bonus Program. The purpose of this is because the current definition of waterfronts is ambiguous, and it could lead to interpretations of properties that only have a sliver of property on a waterfront to be able to utilize that bonus. And so the purpose of this is just moving forward. When redevelopment comes forward, we have a clear definition of waterfronts and a clear way to apply this definition.
Okay, so I would like to ask on my own behalf, regarding Building 600, how is that affected in particular?
The existing structure is not affected. What we're discussing is future redevelopment is when that definition would come into play.
Okay, so according to their percentage of waterfront, how would they be affected in particular? Do you know?
There is no effect to the existing structure on site.
Not current day, but future-wise, how might they be affected?
I think
Would you
he's
know?
asking, they would not then be eligible for the additional intensity bonus because they would no longer be considered waterfront. Is that accurate?
Correct. For any future redevelopment, that particular parcel would not be eligible for the bonus program associated with waterfront lots.
Okay. So hopefully that answers the residents' questions. Any other questions?
Any other clarification? No? And what about the 75%? Is that consistent with other municipalities, or how we got to that number?
That's a number that we use to consider what's the majority of a waterfront. We have to draw the line somewhere. I think it would be unfair to make it 100%, so 75% was a good fit for our particular city.
Okay.
Anyone else? So,
I just want to make it clear that this is moving forward. Obviously, you know, we have a building, the Winston Tower 600, but obviously that will only pertain to if that building comes down and somebody decides to buy that building or that property and rebuild. What it'll do is that it will prevent any new developer from getting extra bonuses where you could have some sort of giant structure there. You know, so just keep that in mind, and that's the purpose of this, this language, let's say, definition that we are proposing.
Question, I think it may have been mentioned, but what percentage do we have, Mamie, for Winston Tower 600?
40.
Well, let me ask.
You mean what's existing
What's
today
the,
on the waterfront?
what section of Winston Tower 600 is considered waterfront?
I don't have the exact percentage, but they have a corner that's on the
ballpark.
water.
Not, so just a corner of the lot? Like the lot, the
It's
canal
less than
ends?
50%.
The canal ends before the building, or like at the corner of the building?
I think it aligns with the parking structure. I haven't taken a very, it looks like the waterfront portion ends where the parking structure begins.
Okay, so it's not
So
in
it's
front
not
of
very
the,
much.
it's not in front of the units?
No.
Not directly, no.
Okay,
right.
all right, thank you.
Okay, so at this point, we'll call for a vote.
Motion,
Motion.
whether to approve or deny.
Okay,
Do I hear a motion?
so moved.
Second.
Commissioner Vizcarra,
Yes.
Commissioner Lama,
Yes.
Commissioner Stuyvesant,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joseph.
Yes.
The ordinance passes 4-0. And for the record, just to clarify one more time, Mayor Svetchin recused herself.
Thank you, Vice Mayor.
Thank
Next item, please.
We're on to ordinances for second reading. 9A is an ordinance of the City Commission of the City of Sunny Isles Beach, Florida, repealing Section 74-8 titled Standing Committees, Chairpersons of the Code of Ordinances of the City of Sunny Isles Beach, and creating a new Section 74-8 titled Advisory Boards and Committees, thereby establishing regulations and procedures governing appointive advisory boards and committees and providing for uniform advisory board and committee membership requirements and procedures, repealing Section 74-9 titled City Boards and Agencies, providing for repealer, providing for severability, codification, and an effective date. And this is second and final reading.
Thank you. City Attorney?
Good evening, Mayor, Commissioners. Following first reading at the last meeting, the Commission requested certain changes be made to the ordinance between first and second reading. A few of those changes were made in Section E2A, We added qualifying language with regards to, and I quote, "or for members of the Youth Advisory Council, at least one parent shall be a resident," which was specifically requested to ensure that not both parents had to be residing in the city for the Youth Advisory Committee. With also in section E, 2C, the language that shall not be a relative as defined herein of any elected official was struck, so that has been removed. In regards to section 4, also E4, the chairperson is now selected by a majority of the committee or advisory board. Same for the vice chairperson, which was also requested. Lastly, in section E8, we removed the language consecutive for meetings, so failing to attend 3 meetings without an excused absence as defined herein, and added 2 provisions, subsection E and subsection F. Subsection E being providing false information in the application process, and subsection F failing to abide by applicable rules of the quorum. And those are the changes that were made.
Thank you. Do we have any speakers?
There's no public speakers for
No
this.
public speakers, so public speaking is closed. Commissioner Viscar, did you have anything you wanted to add or ask any questions?
Alan, I recall going over like a little minor edit, and I'm looking at it right now. I don't exactly remember what it was, but it was pertaining. Do you
Yes, I recall.
Okay,
So-
thank you, because I don't have my notes with me.
Right, so the old subsection C, actually, it's in E2C. The language as it currently is says, "shall not be a relative of any other member of an advisory board or committee upon which they are serving." Granted, the language is a little confusing. What that's meant to say is essentially that 2 relatives can't be on the same board. Kind of creates a sunshine issue where, especially if they're in the same household, it's almost impossible not to discuss the issues. We had discussed potentially changing it to "shall not be a relative of another member of the advisory board or committee upon which they are serving." And those are just a change of 2 words that makes it a bit more clear.
I would recommend those edits, and thank you for writing them down, because I didn't have them here.
Vice Mayor, do you have anything you wanted to add?
Yes. Also, as to that section C, Alan,
Yes.
was that language always in there? That was in the prior?
It was not.
Okay. Because it turns out that on the Youth Council, we have brother and sister.
Correct, and this would be prospective, so it wouldn't affect the current appointments.
Yes, I understand that. But how did that was allowed to occur in the first place?
There was no prohibition from it before.
Right. Okay, so this is just going forward.
Correct.
Okay. And it doesn't affect the current status of the Youth Council members?
That's correct.
I did look at last month, that was there last month. I think we just didn't catch it.
Okay.
It was at the first reading, but it's not in the existing iteration of the ordinance.
Okay.
Right. Okay, so we are going to modify that somewhat?
If the commission is amenable to that change, where it will read, "shall not be a relative of another member of the advisory board or committee upon which they are serving," makes it clear.
Yes. Okay. Going forward.
Correct.
Okay.
Commissioner Seuss? Nothing? Commissioner Lama?
No questions from me.
Okay. The only question I have is so that there's clarification, because we do have this situation. These rules will be going forward for the next appointments.
Yes.
It's not
Correct.
going to affect. Okay, good. With that, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Viscara. This is a
Roll call.
roll call.
Commissioner Stuyvesant? Commissioner Lama?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Joseph?
Yes.
Commissioner Viscara?
Yes.
Mayor Svechen?
Yes.
The ordinance passes 5-0.
Next item, please.
Next item is resolution section. 10A is a resolution authorizing the expenditure of forfeiture funds from the Department of Justice Federal Forfeiture Account to purchase policing equipment and police canines and related equipment.
Welcome, Chief.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commission, Mr. Manager. The Police Department is seeking approval to expend Department of Justice forfeiture funds to purchase police equipment. Our last remaining police dog, Canine Vino, is approaching retirement at the end of May. The Police Department would like to replace the dog and the previously retired dog, Rocco, rest in peace, with 2 new police canines. We plan on purchasing 2 police dogs, one for drugs and patrol work, and the second for explosives and patrol work. We also need to purchase the required equipment to be given to the newly selected handlers. We're asking to utilize $100,000 for this purpose. Additionally, the police department is promoting 2 police sergeants and is in need to purchase 2 ballistic shields for $6,000 and 2 breach kits for $2,800, which would ensure that all patrol supervisors have this much needed equipment. This equipment would assist our officers in violent confrontations to include active shooter situations. Due to the increase in personnel in the Marine Patrol unit, the police department is in need for a rugged laptop computer for the vessel at a cost of $4,000. The laptop will be used exclusively on the police boat by the newly acquired Marine officer, Mark Britton. Due to the increased traffic enforcement, there is a need for officers to have tint meters. The 40 tint meters will be given to patrol officers to enforce dark tint violations at a cost of $6,000. Lastly, the police department is in need of smaller firearms to more easily conceal for plainclothes officers at a cost of $6,500. These 13 firearms will be the same make and caliber as the newly purchased firearms used agency-wide. The plainclothes officers would also need holsters at a cost of $1,040. And again, this is money taken from the bad guys that is not a cost to the taxpayers.
Thank you. Do we have any public speakers?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioner Lama, do you have any questions?
No, thank you.
Commissioner Viscar?
Forfeiture funds are my favorite.
Vice Mayor?
Yes. Chief, how are we doing on the ticket riders?
They're operational, fully operational.
Oh, awesome. Okay.
So
I actually saw a motorcycle officer on his computer doing a ticket the other day.
So excited.
I was glad to see it, yes.
Commissioner Stewison? All right, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Thank you, Chief.
Next item.
Next item is 10B, a resolution approving a second amendment to the agreement with Academy Bus for motor coach transportation services.
Hi, good evening, Mayor, Commission. So in 2021, the city entered into an agreement with Academy Bus Company. They have serviced our summer camp students, campers throughout the summer, also through winter camp and spring break camp. They are asking to increase their prices, their fees from $84.39 per hour to $100 an hour plus a 7.5% fuel fee and a 7.5% safety compliance fee, which equates to $115 an hour. We did do a little research and we contacted the second lowest bidder or the second highest bidder from the award, and their Florida Tours, they're now charging $130 an hour. So Academy Bus still remains the least expensive option for us. Summer camp fees do cover the cost of all transportation.
Thank you. Do we have any public speakers?
No, ma'am.
Okay. Commissioner Stewison, do you have anything?
No, I have no comment.
Vice Mayor?
No, ma'am.
Commissioner Lama?
Yeah, it's just surprising how costs are going up. So, yeah, I mean, you could see it across the board. So, but yeah, thank you for being able to negotiate something that is, comparable or a little bit less than some of the rest of the vendors.
Commissioner Viscar?
I was going to ask you if you did your comparison shopping, but you answered that. So thank you for your diligence.
Okay, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item.
Anyone and everyone is taking advantage of inflation.
10C is a resolution approving a second amendment to the project agreement with Keith and Associates to provide civil engineering and landscape architectural services for the Town Center Park upgrades. And Madam Mayor, can we take 10D as well, along with this one?
Yes. Thank you.
10D is a resolution awarding invitation to bid number 230202 and approving an agreement with Slayman Construction for the construction of the meditation garden.
Do we have something that we're going to be showing? Okay, all right, then I'll do my best. Before you start, I just wanted to quickly say that I've gotten a lot of questions about this, so if Rick, if you can provide any historical, when this goes back to, and then I'll try to, with the deputy manager, to fill in anything that you missed, so please go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. Before you tonight is the construction services and the contract for construction of the Town Center Park Mediation Art Park Garden, which is in the back where the old skate park used to be. This item originally came up back in October of 18 when the PAC had discussed putting an art park in the city. Then they decided to make it a meditation garden. So that was kind of involved with the scope. Then in June of 19, there was an agreement approved to get a donation from the Muse for an art sculpture that would go in this park. And then on January 20th, there was a resolution approving a concept plan, which included fountain locations, quiet areas, a couple shade structures, and a little bit of upgrade to the existing building. And then back in October of 21, we approved an agreement with Mike Sabo for our own art sculpture to go into the back portion. Then as of May of last year, we approved consultant agreements with Rodriguez Architect for the building and Keith and Associates for the park design. So that work has been completed. We went out to bid. Slayman Construction was the lowest qualified bidder. So they're before you tonight as agenda item 10C or 10D for the construction. And then we also have continuing construction administration from Keith and Associates.
Thank you.
So that's the history of the park.
And Mayor, the site plan you're looking for is actually in your agenda packet.
Okay.
It's on page 18 of.
No, that's fine. I just wanted it on the screen, but that's okay. We can put it later. Do we have any public speakers?
No, ma'am. Oh, I'm sorry, yes, we do.
Okay.
Ari Steiger for 10D.
Ari Steiger, 262 Atlantic Island. I don't know whose idea was it, this skating park, to convert it to a mediation park. If you mediate, you can go to the beach and have fresh air with a mat, and you don't have to spend $750,000 on a truck of grass. I don't know where the numbers come for $750,000 to put grass on, I don't know, a half acre or whatever the property is. It's insane. Did anybody take a check how many people are going to this event, whatever? Or you just vote on it for random? I think it's a waste of money, and there's no reason for this park because the people are not going to participate anyway. And it's in the back. So what sense does it make to create a park that nobody's going to use it? You're good at wasting money, waste it on some other parks so we'd have any beneficiary of it.
Would you rather see a pickleball court?
Absolutely.
Okay, we're not debating with the public. Thank you. Are there any other public speakers?
That's it for public speakers.
Okay. Commissioner Viscar, did you have any questions?
Questions? No.
Comments?
Couple of comments. The noise complaints that will come from a pickleball court will take 5 minutes. No, if I remember correctly, the part of this design was through the PAC. Am I remembering that correctly? So it's not just coming out of nowhere. It is, was part of a more thoughtful conversation. Also, it's a much smaller scale. I feel like this is sort of like the undergrounding, like it keeps coming back and keeps coming back, and it's another sort of money for this statue or whatever. So I am a little frustrated by the fact that it keeps coming back, but I understand it's a work in progress, and it's not part of our Parks Comprehensive Plan, and maybe if we had thought of that before, maybe we would have had a different outcome, but this is the direction that was chosen, and we're well underway now. And as for, if somebody has a different memory about it, let me know, but I recall it being the opposite of the skateboard park, which was noisy and for young kids and not welcomed by the neighbors, replaced by a tranquil space. The beach is nice and it's a lovely place to meditate, but it's not accessible to everybody. I think this was envisioned more for maybe people who can't, easily walk on the sand and the mobility issues and the like, and it's a more accessible place for some people. And certainly a more welcome kind of use of the space than something that's noisy, because it turns out, as we all know from the loud cars, noise tends to travel up and it upsets people, even if it's a building or two away. So those are just my comments, but it's not out of nowhere. Feel free to correct me if...
Thank you. Commissioner Lama?
May I?
Yes, please go ahead.
It is now on the screen.
Yes, I
It's
see.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Lama?
Yeah, I just want to say that this has been in the works for a while. Obviously, before some of us were here in the dais. Like Rick said, since 2018, I think the conversation started. I like the idea. I think there's some certain things that we need to be mindful of. Obviously, it is within a park where kids are. So, and also we need to be mindful of the mosquitoes in that area as well. Yeah, pickleball court, I don't think it'll work. I mean, we took out the skate park because of the noise bouncing all over. So I think whatever we put in there needs to be something that is cognizant of any noises. I do believe adults need a space where they could go in and relax, especially that this city has become basically a metropolis, and I think it'll be a nice space for that purpose. Yes.
Thank you. Vice Mayor.
Well, this.
Wait. We're not discussing anything with the audience. Vice Mayor.
How far along is this project, can I ask?
Well, once you approve it tonight, we'll issue contracts and purchase orders and start the construction process.
Okay, so right now it's just empty ground just with grass?
Yes.
Okay.
And
what
remnants
is
of the old park.
Yeah, I understand. What is the size of the lot?
I want to say about 1.5 acres-ish.
So that can be a tennis court?
Could be.
Okay.
Well, I would vote for a tennis court.
Okay. Commissioner Stuyvesant, did you want to add anything?
No comments.
Okay. So I think I was probably the person that was here when this all started. And just to give some reference, and certainly with all due respect to everyone in the audience and any speakers, this was a process that was undertaken by a group that the commission at that time gave the authority to meet for, I'd say, almost 2 years, if not more, to discuss this. And it was in response to, before we had the Parks Master Plan, that most of the parks, if not all the parks in our city, are very kid-focused. And the idea behind this, if I remember correctly, was it was only for adults. And it would have spaces that were not just for meditation, they were for meeting spaces, places that you can read, that you can relax, but that it had, literally that it was quiet. Because for anyone that lives in the Winston Towers area, that remembers the skate park, and not just the skate park, really any noise back there, it does bounce. And it was quite a problem at that time. So although it's taken a long time, and I recognize that this is a significant amount of money, I think that we would have benefited if we had a little bit better view, but we can certainly, I believe, can we put that up on the website so that people have a better sense of what it is that this is buying, along with the art pieces?
Yes, definitely.
So again, this wasn't something that just came up, and as Commissioner Viscara stated, this was really something that was discussed by 5 people, I believe, for many, many hours and presented to the commission, and many of these questions were asked at that time as well and answered, so thank you. With that, I'll take a motion.
No, I have one more
Please, go ahead.
statement. As I'm sitting here thinking about this now, and since the ground is in its raw state, I believe this also, there wouldn't be a big deal, it wouldn't be a big deal to wrap this property also into the park master plan, and possibly to have a tennis court there.
Mayor?
The park itself is an active park. We have soccer, kids play soccer. People use it for running, exercise, and tennis, I think, would fit in perfectly there.
Okay, thank you. Deputy Manager?
I just wanted to mention that the Parks and Rec Master Plan did take into consideration that this was already designated as this park, so as part of our park inventory, it had already been designated for this, so they did not consider it for active recreation because they thought it was
Already planned, okay.
Right.
Thank you for the clarification.
But we could actually modify it to, if another idea, possibly a better idea, came into effect.
Okay, so I just want to clarify again that while I personally appreciate that what you're saying, because I do understand that there are lots of needs, but I'd like to just bring your attention to the fact that the reason that it's no longer a skate park is because there was an uproar in the community to actually remove the skate park, and we spent a significant amount of money removing it along with other municipalities to put it to Haulover.
Yes, but skateboarding and tennis have 2 different noise levels.
Okay.
I understand the pickleball, but tennis doesn't cause nearly that amount of noise.
Right. Thank you.
Mayor, just to note for the record, we did receive a public speaker card for this item after the public portion is closed.
Okay. So thank you for your comment. I'm going to allow it only because I do want to recognize that people want to speak, but please keep your comment to 3 minutes. Who are we?
Alan Cole.
Alan, please.
Thank you.
Alan Call, Winston Tower, 600. I just, all these parks and all these programs, I just wanted to remind you all to include, at least the underground, maybe not the spaces or the charging stations, but in another 5 to 10 years, we're going to have a large number of EV vehicles. Already the city has, the 100% EV buses that are running, and it's going to grow and grow. So while we spend the money wisely, at least put in the underground or some stations for EV parking, and then plus maybe even extra parking, because I don't know how much longer are we going to have the parking across the street. Right now, when there's activities in that park, we have access to park and deserts property, but I don't know how long is that going to go on. So just maybe make room for, because these parks are have limited parking spaces, and obviously they have no EV charging stations, which is going to be a desired need in the immediate future.
We may have hydrogen.
Thank you, Alan. Okay. All right. If there are no other questions or debate, I'll take a motion.
So moved.
Take a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Any opposed?
No.
Okay, thank you. Next item?
Mayor, we're also going to take the next 2
Oh, I'm
items
sorry.
together.
Yes, correct.
10E is a resolution awarding bid number 230201-2 and approving an agreement with the Stout Group to provide construction services for the east end of 172nd Street roadway and drainage improvement projects. And 10F. Okay. Okay.
No, it's D and E together.
No, C and D together. E is separate.
Thank you for clarifying. Okay, I'll take a motion on D.
We already did.
So what are you adding then?
We're just considering E right now.
Oh, thank you then.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners, and staff. This is the resolution to award a contract to the Stout Group for the reconstruction of the east end of 172nd Street. This will eliminate the flooding that we typically get by the fire station when we have the king tide issues. We're going to be raising the street about a foot, and we're also going to be redoing the parking lot at the park as part of this.
Thank you. Do we have any public speakers?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm just giving you one last opportunity. If anybody wants to fill out a public speaking card, please do so now. Okay. Do I have any questions from the commission? Commissioner Viscara, questions or comments?
Can you tell us how this might impact the traffic as the work is being done, and when we expect the work to be completed and executed?
We're planning to start June 1st once school stops, so we won't have the issue with school traffic twice a day coming in and out of that street. The project will be done a half at a time, basically, so we'll always have access for the fire station and as well as one-way in and out. We may look to eliminate the westbound movements at some point to expedite the project.
And will the work be done through the evening as well? Are we going to have extended hours?
No, this will be all daytime work.
Okay. All right, so now the road won't go like this anymore?
Yes, be
Yay.
a little less of that, yes.
Thank you.
Vice Mayor?
I'm fine.
Okay, Commissioner Stevenson? Commissioner Lama? Okay. I'll take a motion then.
I'll make a motion.
Second.
Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Next item?
Next item is
Thank
10F,
you.
a resolution approving change order number 6 to the agreement with the Stout Group for the construction of the Golden Shores Utility Underground Project.
Friendly reminder to please fill out a public speaking card.
Good evening. I have a little exhibit I want to make as part of my explanation. Questions I'm sure that will arise.
Don't forget, we can't hear you if you're not on the speaker.
No, I'll do it later.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Good evening. I know you're always thrilled to see me because I'm always here asking you for more money. The first item on my agenda and my discussion is the change order itself. I'll go through the quick details of what are encompassed in that change order, and then I'd like to give you a bit of a presentation and an update on the project, the progress, and the remaining work. This change order is a result of essentially 5 categories, but let me just do it. The design of the utility undergrounding for the city of Sunny Isles Beach actually began with documents dated 2012. They have evolved for 11 years. And in that evolution, there have been changes in technology, there have been changes in the utility company's approach to solving problems. And 2 of the major elements within this change order is addition of conduit for what we refer to still as Atlantic Broadband. You all realize Atlantic Broadband is now Breeze Line, but you're never going to get me to convinced to not talk about Atlantic Broadband. So there's conduit that has to be interfaced between the Golden Shores Undergrounding Project and the Collins Avenue. Keeping it all in perspective, remember Atlantic, which runs along the east side of Golden Shores, was partially in the Collins undergrounding project, the first 4 phases, and part of it was in the Golden Shores. There's a miss. There's a miss of several hundred feet of 4-inch conduit that is absolutely, can't finish the project without putting this 4-inch conduit in the ground.
Now, AT&T isn't included in that at all? In the mess of
Vice Mayor,
things?
let's have him finish this, and then we'll start with the questions.
If I could do comprehensive answers at the
Sure.
end, it would
Okay.
really be, I think,
Reminder,
helpful.
everything's through the chair.
Thank you.
Similarly, during the evolution and design, Florida Power and Light put in a new feeder across Dumbfounding Bay from Aventura. Their design was intended and shown on their drawings that were incorporated in the Golden Shores project to come across Dumbfounding Bay with a directional bore and bring it to a riser pole, one of which we'll be removing as part of the undergrounding. But they decided to change their minds, and they, in the process of bringing this feeder line across Dumbfounding Bay, added a manhole. They paid for the installation of the manhole. They did all of that as part of their Dumbfounding Bay improvement. However, they didn't, it was never presented to us during the Golden Shores design that we now have to bring our conduit that brings all of the underground feeder, that's the big concrete poles that you see in Golden Shores, into the manhole. We were anticipating picking it up at a smaller terminal location at the base of one of the big concrete poles, eliminating the overhead and going on our way. We had to tie in to that manhole that they placed in the middle of North Bay Road at the intersection of 187th Street. These are things that happen when you do utility undergroundings and when they take 11 years to do. Along with that, and part of what I handed out to you, the reason these aren't more formal and weren't part of your package is these pictures are from Monday morning on Golden Shores and 187th. If you look at the first picture, it's identified as asphalt depth on 187th Street. I know it's not the clearest picture in the world, but it's the best photography we've had available. I'm going to have Leah come on the project with me and we'll have better pictures. It clearly shows the depth of asphalt on 187th Street at 10 inches. This isn't a new issue. We've been to you twice before on this. The beauty is we aren't impacted by inflation. We negotiated a price during the bidding process for the Golden Shores project, and the unit price that was determined by the engineers at that point in time was 4-inch depth of asphalt. The contractor agreed as we started encountering these greater depths, and we've had areas of 14 inches, that they would charge us only the unit price in the contract for the 4-inch removal, for the relevant additional work. Had we anticipated, had we included 10 inches of asphalt, our unit price would have been 5 to 10 times higher than what we are. I know it's painful to spend the money, but we're getting a deal.
Lucky.
We're getting a bargain to do this work. Similarly, the next picture, and this is probably the most frustrating aspect of utility undergrounding. You'll notice there's 2 designations. There's number 1 and number 2. Number 1 is a sewer lateral line coming from a residential home on 187th. About 4 feet to its right is number 2, which is a yellow line, and that's a TECO, or now called, it's got a different name now, gas line. What's so particular about these is these occur at 52 inches below grade. That is exactly the dimension that we need to put the FPL conduit in to meet the required 4 foot of cover. This is just an example of one situation. We have hundreds of these. And the complication is that it means that our contractor has to excavate ahead of the sewer line, excavate behind the gas line, and deflect their 6-inch conduit or multiple 2-inch conduits that feed Florida Power and Light and go underneath these. Again, they have been fair and honorable to us, and they are only charging us for the contract unit prices. They have not escalated their prices for material or labor, but I promise you that when you go to take a 6-inch pipe and you have to put in 45 or 22.5 degree bends and deflect and dig deeper and pour more flowable fill over to protect it, each one of these items costs a lot of money.
And they have to do hand digging as well?
Vice Mayor, can I just remind you everything's through the chair?
Okay, I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Now, the good news. The project consists of 10,800 linear foot of trench. That's where you've seen the excavation near the edge of the road by the homes. We have now completed a little over, as of the end of today, a little over 9,000 linear foot of duct installation. We are down to about 1,800 linear feet. 187th was completed tonight. We now have a run of North Bay Drive down to 185th. We have only the shortest street in all of Golden Shores, 186th, and then we have to come back up Atlantic. We will be done with conduit, and I'm always hesitant to give you a date, but you've already picked up your pencil. We're going to be done with the conduit in Golden Shores no later than July 15th.
Oh, hallelujah.
That will be the conduit. A lot still has to come. We had a conference call. The vice manager was on. You're a deputy manager. You're not a manager of. Never mind. She was on the call with us Tuesday, and I informed FPL of our progress, and I said, have you bid? Are you ready to do your part of the work? That's where they set the boxes. That's where they pull the conductor. That's where they do the guts. We've been giving them the raceway. Now they've got to fill the raceway. They were, without hesitation, not bashful, to tell us, oh, you've got to get in the queue. You've got to give us your as-builts. That's the documents that our contractor prepares, showing them exactly what they've put in place. And they'll consider reviewing our as-built documents over the next 2 to 3 months. I was uncharacteristically polite and didn't have a big fight with them on Tuesday. That fight is yet to come, because on phases 1, 2, 3, and 4 on Collins, the FPL engineering representative walked every piece of the as-built documents with me. I promise you, if I have to tie a chain around their neck, they will walk the as-built documents with Golden Shores for me, and I will do everything in our power to move that along. The other most positive aspect is that today, before lunch, we finished the review and design of the urban trail. We will have completed documents within 2 to 3 weeks to where we can now physically begin the urban trail. I'll remind you that the urban trail initial cost is included in Stout's contract as an allowance. There have been some significant changes. The trail is wider. The trail is now pervious concrete as opposed to a 6-foot asphalt trail. I'll be back to talk to you, but we are getting there. We've also made some major considerations to the sidewalk portion of the project. The original design was somewhat convoluted. We're now going to revise it, simplify it. We are going to use pervious concrete, which will have an impact. But I think the overall scope of the sidewalk portion of Golden Shores will follow in very, very much in line. I want to focus on the urban trail. I want to have the urban trail hopefully done before school starts. Or at least, and I think with what we've done, we've greatly diminished the amount of landscaping that was in the original design, and we've really simplified it. But and as I was telling the designer today, I'm really sorry we called it an urban trail. We should have called it a rural trail. The idea was to make it low-key, calm, and very, very relaxing, not to become a major thoroughfare. And the first couple of designs, it was truly an urban trail, and we're bringing it back down with it being just a lot more passive and certainly less active. And then following behind all of that will be asphalt paving. And originally we were going to do a block at a time in consideration of all the construction activity, not ours, other construction activity within the community. We are going to wait and do a comprehensive plan of asphalt restoration. And I'm confident that you'll see that the asphalt will be completely new in Golden Shores by Labor Day. And then the last element I'm sorry, I missed the storm drainage. We completed 189th Street today with the main piping. There's still a little bit of adjustment to elevations and a structure. We will start the first of next week on that element of drainage that encompasses 185th around the corner on North Bay Drive, and making those two major elements. There are other minor storm drainage adjustments within the community that will precede the asphalt, but those two major areas I think are going to be done within the next, by the middle of June. And a question that has come up, I've had numerous conversations last week and this week. I met with senior management folks of Hotwire. The question was, Hotwire was invited, no they weren't, I apologize. 6 years ago, as we were designing and planning Golden Shores, we didn't invite Hotwire. Hotwire was not a single-family residential supplier at the time. Hotwire was their corporate business profile was major transmission line, feeding the other companies. They've since gotten into the individual residential elements within condominiums, within major residential areas. They will not participate and come into Golden Shores for service. We even presented them an option. We have put in, spare conduit within the trenches that's designated for the city. We were willing to work with them and see if we could sell them an interest in the conduit that we had already put in, which would keep them from having to dig up. Their condition, and it's an absolute condition, is that unless they can sell it as a bulk provider, they are servicing condominiums in Sunny Isles Beach, but they service the entire condominium element, 200 units, 2,000 units. With Golden Shores not being an HOA or a single entity, they are not willing to put in their capital investment to service internet, TV, voice communication within Golden Shores.
Okay. You're done?
I doubt that I'm done, but
today, I meant, are you finishing?
Yes, I am.
All right, thank you.
Yes, I am.
Do we have any? We do not?
No, ma'am.
Okay, Commissioner Viscara?
Thank you. Thank you. I don't envy your job, so thank you. I know you're working hard.
Commissioner Lama?
Yeah, thank you again. I have a question. Did you say Hotwire is not or is willing to service is not?
Unless there can be some legal way, and we had addressed this several years ago. AT&T kind of made the same proposal to us. AT&T had said they would come into the community, Golden Shores, if we could get every resident in Golden Shores to commit to using AT&T fiber. Legally, we can't force them to do that. Hotwire would only come to Golden Shores if all 239 properties formed an HOA, and they could then make a bulk sale to the HOA, who would then figure out how to charge the individual residential properties.
Very well. Now, I have a question for you. Now, given all of the conditions you have seen, and now you have a better understanding of the terrain and some of the challenges there, do you foresee any other issues coming up or any unbudgeted expenses?
I will be back to you to talk to you about asphalt again. There's no question. It's not going to be in the order of magnitude because we are down to the last 1,800 feet. And Commissioner, we've come to you with actual costs. We haven't come to you with budgets. We've come to you with, this is what we've encountered. This is what we have to pay for. Do I expect there to be a few more $1,000s? We're to the point now where we know where certain elements haven't been spent. We're replenishing the contingency. I will spend us down to the last dollar of the contingency before I come back to you with additional costs. But, you know, until that shovel goes in the ground, you don't know what's there. We were out there today for 4 hours with the company that does the locates for all underground, and they're good professional people. When they look at their records, and they are relying on the information provided to them by the utility companies. When they look at what WASA says, that's where a sewer line is, and they mark it and they test it, and we dig the next day and it's 4 feet aside or it's 3 feet deeper. Or the answer to your question is, we don't know.
You don't know. No, I just want, I'm just curious because obviously, you know, when we're dealing with construction and a project of this magnitude, once you start breaking ground, you know, looking at, you know, asphalt, like you said, the depth, a lot of these things you don't know about them. I'm just curious now that you're a little more advanced, if you foresee perhaps based on the experience and a better knowledge of what's been going on,
I, with reasonable confidence, will tell you that I don't foresee any major unforeseen situations. I haven't found any buried seawalls on the west side of Bay Drive, and I think we're down to.
Yeah, I guess my question was: is there something that's keeping you up at night? A major concern?
No.
Okay.
No.
All right.
No.
Thank you. Vice Mayor?
Yes. Hi. So on 189th
Your microphone is
Street-
not on.
Okay, so on 189th Street, we've connected at 300, we've connected that sewer to the sewer across the street,
Yes, we have.
and that saves that house flooding. That's great. And I was at a commission meeting in Golden Beach when they were discussing hot wire and the number of houses in Golden Beach that have not yet connected with hot wire because they're staying with BreezeLine or AT&T. So how is it that they're dealing with it there and they're not allowing us
Hotwire, excuse me, Golden Beach, and trust me, I have spoken with the manager at length about this, number one, because of our long-standing position. I mean,
Yes.
I've been involved with Golden Beach for over 15 years. They were able to make a bulk purchase from Hotwire. All 386 homes in Golden Beach have Hotwire now to their homes. Whether they elect to use it or not is entirely up to them. Golden Beach, the government passed, and you can tell me how they did this because I don't know. They made a deal with Hotwire for X number of dollars a month for 386 services, to where Hotwire bills the town of Golden Beach. Town of Golden Beach passed a tax assessment of X plus, so that Golden Beach can make a profit off of this utility service to the single-family homes. But they all go to every single-family home.
Right, they have the connection, but they're not
386.
required to use it.
They don't have to use it.
Right.
But they're being billed for it as a tax assessment.
Okay.
Now, understand what you may not have known at the time you were at a commission meeting, they're only being provided internet. They are not being provided cable TV, and they are not being provided voice communication. They are options that the resident can elect to purchase at a individual rate from Hotwire, but the bulk installation of conduit and fiber was for internet only.
Okay, so what I don't know myself is the comparison between Hotwire and the two services that we have in Golden Shores now. Do you know if Hotwire is that much better?
I think they're better. I think number one, they're newer. Their basic system within the entire area is newer. It's all fiber. There's no copper. Understand that Atlantic Broadband Breezeline is still a hybrid of copper and fiber.
Right.
AT&T is still a hybrid of copper and fiber. I failed
In
to
Golden
mention-
Shores, they're all copper.
There's fiber feed to the neighborhood now. There will be, as soon as we bring it all in, there will be a fiber hub coming to the neighborhood, but the individual connections to the existing homes is all copper.
Right.
New homes are getting fiber.
Yes. So as long as you have that copper, you're not going to get the higher speeds.
That's true. That's absolutely the truth. We did invite 7 years ago Comcast to participate in Golden Shores, and they declined.
Thank you.
Now also, Golden Beach is doing closed-circuit cameras in their entire community.
Yes.
Is
I'm
that
aware of
something we
that.
would be interested in?
Well, we have the conduit I was alluding to earlier, and the conduit that Derek is using now for his fiber upgrades for all of the parks and the wire Wi-Fi connections are spare conduit that we're putting in. We have conduit in these 10,800 linear foot of trench that is available to the community if we would want to use it for communications, a citywide internet system, TV monitoring. So we have provided a raceway within the community.
Now, AT&T and Breezeline, they're not able to or willing, or it hasn't been considered with them to do closed-circuit television? Or we're not looking for that?
We haven't discussed that with them at all.
But they don't really have the capability as well?
It's not their business model.
Right, exactly. So if we were to go with Hotwire, we might have that capability.
They have that.
Right.
They
So-
provide that service to
So looking towards the
communities.
future, Hotwire is really the smarter service to go with.
Probably, although there are new ones, Blue Streak, Crown Castle. I
Thank
probably
you.
have a
This is,
list of 20. I'm not
just-
going to go there.
Yeah, I want to move on because the discussion's not about Hotwire, so I appreciate your enthusiasm, Vice Mayor.
only what's best for the
Commissioner
community.
No comment? Okay. I'll take a motion. Okay.
So moved.
No.
I guess
Second,
yeah.
thank you. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Thank you.
I vote no.
Okay, thank you.
Next item on the agenda, we're on to discussion items. 12A is a discussion regarding a whistleblower ordinance.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I know it's a little bit late, but I'm hoping that we can still have a good discussion about this. if you've been following the news, you hear what's happening at the federal level regarding whistleblowers. And just to give anyone that is not clear on what this discussion is about and what is a whistleblower, it's generally someone that has, in either the private sector or in the public sector, has witnessed either fraud, corruption, waste, has been discriminated against, has been passed over for promotion or felt that they were passed over for promotion. There's a difference between someone that's a whistleblower and someone that is a leaker, someone that just is maybe spreading information. And the reason for that is because specifically both the private sector, and for those of us that work in the private sector or have worked in the private sector know this, they are a protected group of people in order to create a safeguard for the institution, whether that be a multi-million-dollar company or a multi-million-dollar city like us, to allow for a second pair of eyes and to really show to the community, in our case, that we are all about transparency, and that we want to know what our government is up to and that they feel like they are protected. Right now, the state of Florida has statutes in place, and the county, Miami-Dade County, has statutes in place at a minimum level. So the discussion I wanted to bring up with this body was, how do we feel about potentially asking staff to look into a whistleblower policy that's beyond what we currently have? We have something that was from 2004, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, please. That is very basic. It's a start. So in some municipalities, if you would like to, as either an employee, but not just an employee, a contractor, this would include someone that is a volunteer. It would include our advisory committees that we have. If you have seen some sort of impropriety, whether that was government waste, the corruption, stealing, anything of that sort, or if you felt that you were discriminated against, currently we have a 5-day limitation, 5 working days to report it to your supervisor. And if it has something to do with your supervisor, you can report it to the director of your department. So what I'd like to discuss with my colleagues here is, do we want to consider adopting something that's a little bit stronger and that would potentially, for instance, allow 30 days, that would allow an independent body to have these discussions with potential whistleblowers that is outside of the supervisor or director. So how do you all feel about it, Commissioner Lama?
Well, in my agenda review, I asked some questions to our legal department. Right now, from what I understand, the state does have protections for whistleblowers, correct? Now, I don't believe the county's statute applies to us, correct, Valerie?
That's correct.
Okay. Now, if we were to have a whistleblower ordinance, right, what I wanted to understand and ask some questions here is that how would this body that would, let's say, impart a legal, let's say, opinion or decision be picked, right? Or how do we come to this independent body? From what I discussed with our attorneys is that we as a commission would pick this independent body to kind of look at these cases, correct?
Potentially. I mean, there's a variety of ways you could do that. The Florida statute requires an impartial panel. There's an investigatory side, and then there's one that makes recommendations. On the recommendation side, you'd have to have some impartial body. You can contract with DOA. There's a variety of things you can do to review the facts. Investigations vary. If you do it at the local level, it could be as simple as the HR director. It could be someone else that's designated to do that. There's a variety of ways you could do it. Ultimately, though, there is some impartiality that's required by the statute that you would need some body, again, either it's through DOA or through a hearing officer or a panel that would make recommendations to either the city manager and or the city commission for action. And if there's no action in that regard, then they proceed, the employee or the affected person would proceed under Florida statutes, and it would have 180 days from that decision to go to court.
Okay. I mean, I'd like to discuss further. I think this will probably, yield another discussion, but my concern is that if we as a city have a whistleblower ordinance, do we in some way, the commission, can we be impartial to this? Wouldn't it be better to keep it 100% separate and kind of have these whistleblowers just go to the state so we could confirm and guarantee impartiality and for this to be a true independent body that is looking at these cases? That is my concern. Because obviously if we, the commissioners or the commission, pick an independent body, I don't see how independent the body could be. I mean, I just want this to be 100% separated from the commission and the city. He mentioned the HR department could go through the process. I think that right there, by mentioning the HR department, I think that the impartiality is annulled right away.
I agree with you.
So I have many questions, and I think that, in my opinion, the way, I mean, I would still need to gather a lot of information. In my opinion, we keep it with the state, and then if there's an issue, we have no idea about it, and if they need to come to us and, give a judgment that obviously is basically, we need to be called for any, let's say, behavior that's not correct, then so be it. But I have my doubts about how impartial, if we have our own ordinance and then we pick our own impartial committee, independent body, I just don't know. I have a lot of questions regarding that. Yeah.
So we discussed this, I discussed this with the attorneys as well, and so I agree with you. It would have to be someone that is completely separate from this body, potentially a special magistrate like we currently have. The reason that I'm bringing this forward as something important, besides the fact that there are protections at the state level, is you are less likely to have people to come forward if they believe they need to go to the state. This is more about not necessarily, I hope not, but not necessarily some sort of major discrimination or harassment. This is more about potential fraud, corruption, stealing, those sort of things that if there is an ordinance in place where it's a deterrent, basically. It's something that you would hope that you wouldn't have to use. And there are studies that support the fact that this is in place in order to deter that sort of behavior. Think of it as a cop on the corner sort of thing. But I agree with you that it couldn't be through the HR department.
Yeah, I mean, I understand what you're trying to say, but then, I don't know, I think it could, the flip side of it is that it could become a tainted type of process if we are the judge in some sort of way, or we are.
We wouldn't be the judge.
No, I understand that, but if we have a hand in it somehow, I'm just trying to think out loud because, I've been in corporate and, when there's certain complaints, people don't go to the HR department, or they don't go to someone that they see that is linked to the organization or to that corporation. So when it is 100% an independent body, someone that's 100% separate from that organization, I think that, when they have that complaint, I think they'll feel safer and they could be a little more confident when they go with that complaint. I don't know. I'm just thinking out loud.
No, and that's the purpose of this discussion. And so you're actually supporting my point that our current policy requires that they go to their supervisor. And so this would be an impartial body like a magistrate that we would not have a hand in. that would do the investigation. But I want to be able to give other people an opportunity. But please don't forget your thought, Commissioner Lama. Commissioner Viscara?
Yeah, first of all, I appreciate, I think I said this to you in my agenda meeting, I appreciate actually being given the material to read well in advance. Got some law school flashbacks, so thank you for that. Okay, so by and large, I understand the sentiment. I think that these are policies that are generally better served, in part for some of the reasons that Commissioner Lama mentioned, that better serve larger organizations than us. I disagree with the mayor. I think the state does not provide minimal. And if you go through the case law, it's not just the statute, but there's substantial case law that covers many of the scenarios. We have Title VII that covers discrimination and other things. I think, to spend resources, we're talking about being more watchful of our resources. I just don't think that this is the place to invest it. It would be redundant. I think the state law covers plenty. Not plenty, I think it covers everything. And I'm tired, so I apologize, but I am a little bit crashing right now. But I'm not, I just don't see the need. I think the existing measures cover us and also steer us away from the concerns that Commissioner Lama was bringing up.
But, and so I can appreciate what you're saying. That's why I want to have a discussion about this. The goal here is about transparency. This isn't just about having a cure. Obviously, a cure is ideal, but for instance, do we know how many claims we've had with the state? Have we had any sort of deputy mayor? Have we had any deputy manager? I'm getting tired too. Claims, because one of the historical reasons for this, besides the fact that this is getting a lot of press federally, is that we have had in our city people that have sort of come forward. We had, I think, 2 or 3 anonymous letters that we received as a commission a couple of years ago, or I guess many more years ago now. And it was very frustrating because very strong, serious accusations were made, and whomever wrote it clearly didn't feel comfortable enough to come forward. So it was anonymous. And this is something that I think that we do, we are small, but we're getting bigger. Commissioner Viscara, you yourself said that we're growing, and I understand that there are certain things that we should be very careful that we're investing in, but investing in anti-corruption measures and transparency, I think, is really, it's key, and everybody on this, in this body ran on that ticket of transparency, and I think it's just really important. And I just go back to those days of getting those horrible letters and not understanding who exactly wrote them and why they felt they needed to be anonymous. And so I appreciate that, thank you, and I know you're tired, so I appreciate you, yes.
But I just wanted to comment, Mayor, because I wrote my notes, but I didn't mention, I generally don't understand how this would contribute to transparency. We have our policies. When the anonymous letters came through, we went through our process. It was investigated. We had our conclusion. I think it served us well, frankly. I don't know what more we
So what I'll do is I will give you more information, because I actually have some reports from the Transparency International org that actually addresses this. And there's a lot of, because I think that it's important that you have, like you said, as much information as possible to make an informed decision, because going back to the anonymous letters, they were resolved, but we never actually got to speak to the person that had the evidence, and that was always my concern. That person never got to really explain what they wanted to say, I'm assuming, because we never found out who it was. Vice Mayor, do you have anything that you wanted to add?
Absolutely. Actually, I would like to ask the mayor, since this is her proposal, why, in your investigation, why don't you know the number of, in the last 25 years, how many how many complaints we've had?
Because I don't have that information.
No one has that information?
I don't know. Does anyone? I don't think so.
But, I mean, through the history of the city, we should know how many complaints we've had.
Well, it depends what kind of complaint. So, you know, for the whistleblower side, you're dealing with fraud, malfeasance,
Yes.
misfeasance, those types of things.
Correct.
Obviously, if you're dealing with discrimination or anything that falls under Title VII of the Florida Civil Rights Act,
I know
that
we've
goes
had
through
a
a
few of
separate.
those that were resolved.
Right, so that goes through a separate process altogether
Correct.
through the FCHR and
Yes.
everything else. So that's
So that
already
we're
in
not-
place.
This
Right.
that doesn't come under this.
So it depends what kind of complaint. If you're dealing strictly with fraud or violations of law and things of that sort, I don't know, again, I don't know that there is a record of that because typically if someone, this addresses an adverse action as a result of reporting something. So it's not the actual report or the actual complaint, it's being adversely acted upon
Yes.
as a result of that. So in that regard, unless you've been sued directly or you've been in court in that regard, or the Florida Commission on Human Relations has addressed this with you, you probably haven't had complaints.
So do we know in our history, has anyone that's worked for the city been arrested for fraud?
I have no idea.
Chief, would you happen to know in our
So-
history?
I don't know if you're going to have that information, but as you walk up here, I want to just give another example of this. This isn't necessarily, I'll give, let's say with a contractor, okay? So we have either a contractor or someone in Parks Department or Works that is driving by and sees that one of our contractors, I don't know, is stealing or doing something that they're not supposed to be doing. This would allow them to report that and not feel that there is going to be any sort of repercussion where they're going to get potentially fired or you know, it's a mechanism to allow for them to feel protected if they see something that they feel they may not want to report because they're afraid that it's going to affect their job. But
We already
Chief,
have see something, say something.
that's not what that means.
Well,
Go ahead.
So, to the best of my memory, we had one person, a purchasing agent, arrested for fraud in the past.
So one in
Thank you.
25 years?
But that goes to my point, right? So if we want to know about this, or we don't want this to happen at all. So I'm not suggesting that we have a city rampant with people that are doing things that are incorrect. But like other cities that do have something in place, this would only benefit us. There's no way that this would harm us unless I'm incorrect. Is there any, Alan or Valerie, are there any instances where this would in some way be detrimental to us as a city? Have you have any experiences where having a whistleblower ordinance has backfired or hurt a city?
From a legal standpoint, I have not.
Well, just to say, I've read, there are certain people in the city that write that our city in particular is ripe with corruption.
I don't agree.
No, well, that's one of your people, but I don't agree as well. But, you know, so I really don't see the need for this particular ordinance.
All right. Thank you. Commissioner Stuyvesant, do you have anything that you wanted to add?
Let me see. So as I understand, we have already a dispute resolution procedure. So we do have some measurements how to deal with this, also in the state level. And whoever make any complaint, if they don't want to put their name, it's their choice. We don't know why will they do it or not. It can be that they are shy about what happened to them. It can be that they're lying. So we actually don't know why will somebody not talk and put their name. If they don't want to come forward to their superior or any of us, again, it's by choice. So anybody who's making a complaint is writing an email or sending a letter, they can put their name if they want to. If they feel that there is going to be a repercussion, there are mechanisms already to protect them. And that doesn't also imply that they cannot come to talk to whoever they want, to the police department, to us, to management, or whatever. So I am actually for less government, no more government. I don't see really the point of this having an extra layer when the layer already exists. So that'll be my comments. I think we have a very good open door policy, so anybody can come talk to us, call us, text, etc. So actually, whoever wants to come to see me, they don't have to make an appointment. I'm almost here every day, so they can come and they know when I'm here and we can talk. So I will welcome to anybody who knows anything to come forward, and I think we will be welcoming and helping them, and maybe directing them in the right direction to how to have their voices heard. So again, talking about government and spending, I don't see the point of having to pay for a general magistrate or for other or for a body that is going to have to sit down and come and listen to all of this. So I don't see really the point of this.
Okay, and I appreciate that, but for clarification, they would not be coming unless there was a reason for them to come, and this isn't for the purpose of the public to come to us. This is for the protection of our employees and our contractors. So this isn't necessarily for, for them to come to us as a commission. I wouldn't actually even recommend for someone that has an issue with something going on in the city coming to us, because I do believe that currently the mechanism that we have is not sufficient. If it just means being able to go to your supervisor, because that is the process right now, am I correct? That's the process. You currently can go to your supervisor, and if that's not sufficient, you can go to your director.
That's for dispute. It's our dispute resolution procedure, which typically deals about the application of your employment rules. So if you're somehow, written up or disciplined for a rule violation, you can appeal that to your supervisor, or if that supervisor is part of it, there's a process to challenge that. That deals mostly with adverse employment actions based on existing city rules. So it doesn't necessarily cover, obviously if someone...
So we don't have something that covers this?
Not directly. I think there's a subset where if someone, let's say, were to complain that I don't want to do this because I think it's fraudulent.
Right.
And then, okay, well, you're fired or you're disciplined, you're suspended, whichever else. They could go through the dispute resolution process, but it's a little bit different. If it was termination, I think at that point you're in a different realm. I don't think it adequately covers it for a whistleblower type situation. It's a good policy for your average everyday personnel type issues.
Dispute. But if you're fired because you say you don't want to do something because you believe it to be illegal or fraud...
It doesn't address that directly. I think
Right.
it's not necessarily designed for that. It
Okay,
could
and-
accommodate it to a certain extent, but I don't think it's the best use of it.
Right, so we do not have anything in place.
Not that directly deals with whistleblower type situations.
Right, exactly. So the potential for if somebody was either fired or let go for whatever reason because they didn't want to do something because they thought that it was fraud or steal or whatever at that point, once they're gone, they're gone. So we would not even really know anything unless they went directly to the state and tried to fight it.
They could. They can go to the city manager. They could try to go through this procedure, but again, you don't have the way that the statutes are drafted. There's again that element of impartiality where here, obviously, if they get the relief they want and it's an erroneous termination and they get relief, then all's good. But to the extent that they don't, then they'd have to traverse through the state system, and you would go there at that point to the state statute, file a whistleblower action, or go through the FCHR and go through the state process, which is in existence now. And you have 180 days after the adverse action that occurs to go ahead and preserve your rights with the state.
Okay, all right, thank you. Well, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I just wanted to clarify. I think I'm looking at this from the other side. If I were an employee, I don't think I would trust an ordinance from the city that I am complaining about, that I'm bringing a complaint about. I would rather go to the state. I think that if for some reason, you give your name, you make a complaint, that ordinance could be used to the detriment of any employee that may come forward. So I would rather, go to the state where I know I could have, some protections or impartiality from the state than go to the government that I am complaining about. That's my take. But perhaps I need to read more, do more research. Maybe this requires another discussion, but that's how I look at it. I look at it from another side, that this ordinance could perhaps be used in the wrong way by the government. You know, you have people come up and then, you know, they go through the show and dance, and perhaps at the end of the day, that employee could be, could be terminated, or there could be negative repercussions against that employee.
Right. Well, that is actually exactly my point. So that this would protect that employee. But I don't want to belabor this. It's late, so we can talk about it. But I just want to clarify, that is exactly what I'm trying to say, is that if there is something on the books that protects that person, then they would feel like they can come forward.
And if I may, Mayor, I just want to clarify something, because we've been saying going to the state. You certainly can report to the state, but using the state system results in you essentially filing an action in court. So the state won't actually give you relief. They won't give you your job back. They're not going to give you damages. It's a process by which, the statute is set up for folks to assert their rights in court. But ultimately, if you go through the state process, you're going to be going to court.
Okay, I have something else to say.
Sure.
So the Commission on Ethics and Public Trust of Miami-Dade County says, the Miami-Dade County Commission on Ethics and Public Trust seeks the public's assistance in identifying unethical conduct and other forms of public corruption in Miami-Dade County in all 34 municipalities. They also have a whistleblower program, and it says here, unethical behavior is a form of corruption that is at the heart of what government is supposed to do, serve its people. So we do have a mechanism. So.
You do. You can go to the Commission on Ethics. There's places you can report to, and they will investigate. This deals with if you're terminated. So if you're terminated for reporting something, and you want your job back, or you want your back pay, or whatever relief you want because you've been wrongfully terminated or disciplined, the Ethics Commission will investigate and will determine, okay, there's fraud. Okay, you're right, there's fraud, but they won't necessarily have the authority to give you your job back. So it's a little bit different. You have all these different agencies that you can report to and have investigations, but
there's no relief.
Right, the whistleblower statute gives you the opportunity to get relief for your wrongful termination, just like under Title VII or Civil Rights Act, where if you're discharged because you're a woman or you're discharged because you're older, you have rights that you can assert that will give you relief.
Yeah, exactly. I still don't see the need. I feel that there are so many different layers of government that they are dealing with this. So I don't know. I don't see it.
Well, we don't have that, but that's okay. We can move on. Sure, go ahead.
So do we have any idea how many tens of thousands of dollars we'd have to? How many tens of thousands of dollars we'd have to add to the budget for this, let's say this ordinance were to pass? How much might this cost the city each year? Any idea?
We pay
Anyone?
the special magistrate how much an hour? It's a $500 minimum, correct?
Yes. So $150 per hour with a $500 minimum.
Right. So it would be assuming that hopefully we would not have any reason for this, our special magistrate comes now once every other month?
Once every other month, yes.
Okay, so 6 times a year potentially, but potentially a lot less. There you go.
Well, let's suppose we have this ordinance and then all of a sudden people start coming out of the woodwork.
Well, that would be exactly
For
what
whatever reason.
we'd want to know.
Well, but it could be for unreasonable reasons as well.
Well, the ordinance would deal with that. I do not imagine that our employees and staff would all of a sudden start making wrongful accusations. But that's okay.
Isn't the FBI weaponized at this
What?
point?
No, okay.
Okay.
Can we move on, please? All right.
12B is a discussion regarding procedures for commission absences and remote participation.
Okay, I'm going to make this quick because this is mine, because I know you all are very tired. This is just, I think we could all agree that COVID is over, and it's been over. So this is just in order to help us have a better process in place so that we all here on the dais have an understanding of how we're participating, what is considered so-called, for lack of a better word, excused absence, and how we want to deal with that. So I know that there was some information that was provided by Valerie and Alan. I appreciate that. And this basically talks to the fact that we currently, in order to have a quorum, we need a physical quorum. And in the past, we've had persons either on the phone, and if you remember, we had a tragedy many years ago where one of our commissioners was tragically hit by a car and became a quadriplegic, and so he wasn't able to attend in person. So this is more of a discussion of how are we defining participation, and whether that means only in person rather than remotely. Commissioner Lama?
So I think that, well, our charter calls and allows for certain absences, obviously.
Yes.
Now, with the definition of a quorum, I do believe it calls for physical, right?
Right, so currently the
Correct.
charter says
Physical.
six absences, which we would not be changing. We cannot change the charter.
Correct.
This would just be how we would participate and be counted as present. So we'd have to be here physically to have a quorum. This is more about the participation portion of it.
I mean, listen, nowadays with, remote work and obviously, a lot of traffic and things happening, I mean, we're all adults here. I think that there should be some flexibility as far as, one of us or the commissioners being able to either phone in or be able to participate via Zoom or some other ways. Perhaps we could discuss an amount of, let's say, remote participation where it would still entail be able to, make it that we have a quorum.
We can't change that. The quorum is physically. The point of this is basically this. The five of us have run for office, and we took this very seriously. We all fought very hard for our seats, and we have a responsibility. We're asked to be here once a month in person, once in a while a little bit more often, and because there are things that happen, there are emergencies, things, God forbid, happen, you are allowed a certain amount of absences without it having any sort of detriment to you personally. This is more about the participation aspect and how we want to have respect for the people that come here in person to also be here in person in order to participate. It doesn't mean that you wouldn't be able to listen in on the phone or, be stuck in traffic, come in late.
Yeah, obviously, I mean, my point goes more to like you're stuck in traffic. Obviously, traffic has become crazy in South Florida, or something came up, and the only way you could participate in that commission meeting is through the phone or some other means, not physically here. So let's say I listen in, my vote wouldn't count if I'm not here?
Exactly.
Okay. Now, I think we should stipulate for at least 2, let's say, remote participations where I know you can't change the quorum, but we've been acting like that and proceeding with some of us perhaps. Some of us had COVID, we were sick. What do you do in that instance? I know that we have...
That's an excused absence. You would not have to be here.
That's an excused absence.
Right,
But if there's an
exactly.
important vote...
Then you need to be here.
Then you need to be here, even if you're utterly sick. But you could still participate. I mean, I think that perhaps we could look at, unfortunately, the charter is the charter, and that was
Fortunately, not unfortunately.
No. Unfortunately, this was not proposed in some of the charter amendments, is what I'm trying to say. Because I think that this should be considered. I'm not saying that we need to be liberal with this, but there's situations that come up where you need to be able to phone in, and it'll be great if our vote can get counted because there's emergencies that come up more and more each time. There's traffic, there's different things, illnesses. So I think that we as a commission could perhaps be a little flexible and continue operating the way we were.
Oh, so just to clarify, I brought up former Commissioner Elian because he did have a horrible thing that happened to him, and there was a lot of flexibility by this commission because it was discussed at that time. I remember Commissioner Vizcarra and I talked about it before she was the commissioner. There was a concern in the community because he wasn't here. And he was allowed to participate, and he was counted, I believe, as present. And so this is more about, we have an expectation that when the public wants to participate, they have to come, and they have to wait, and they have to sit here. And so this is more about, you can call in, you can listen, but if you're stuck in traffic, you need to make accommodations for being here once a month. That we all agree to this. This is not a surprise that we have this. That we're
yeah,
having
but
this
the
meeting.
emergencies come up.
Of course, and that's why that is already in the charter. You can miss 6 meetings. That's a large amount of meetings.
Well,
Commissioner?
the point is not to miss meetings. I mean, I think the point is to participate. And going back to your point about, the public does come in here. And obviously, we all come in here. We hear, I don't think, I missed a couple of them because I was sick with COVID. But, and there's other emergencies. I think we're all responsible. But I think moving forward, the charter right now calls for physical presence. But, we need to start thinking and kind of adapting to the new times. And, I'll leave it at that. I think that we should have some sort of flexibility towards this. Because, we are committed. And it's a shame that if we're listening in and perhaps, let's say next month, something happens, I'm stuck in traffic, my car breaks down, I'm severely ill, and we have an important vote, I would like for my vote to be counted, because for me to be absent in a 2-3 hour period, I don't think it's fair for my vote to be negated because something out of my control came up.
So, I know Commissioner Vizcarra, I think you wanted to say something. Just again to clarify, I want to say that I believe all our votes are important votes, and the ones that I think you're referring to are usually ordinances that have 2 readings. So you're not excluded from it, but again, this is more about putting together a procedure that makes it very clear for all of us here what is considered present and what is considered just listening in. Commissioner Vizcarra, did you want to say something?
Maybe we should put a number on like 2 remote, commission participation days. I don't know.
Okay. Well, first and foremost, we are expected to be physically present here once a month. I really don't think that that's a huge ask. Like, we should be here, but, right, things happen. Sometimes not just you. If you have, an ill family member, life happens. So, but I do think, and I don't think it's a problem, or I think it's been a problem in previous commissions either, that people do show up. We show up. So I do think that we need to make that a priority. And I also think, maybe this is a little peripheral to what the mayor's bringing up, but I think we need to open up the conversation about, appearing through Zoom when we're appearing remotely, because when we are on the phone, it's harder. Like, you don't see the people, it's hard to hear sometimes. But when we were in hybrid and we had our Zoom meetings, that was, I think about having done those meetings on the phone, and it would have been awful. So the Zoom part, if we can incorporate that in some way, that would be nice. Now, let me ask this, because I always assumed that when you're on the phone and you vote, that you, let me rephrase that, that when you're on the phone, that you can vote. Is that correct, lawyers? Are we, because I think that we've done that.
Well, you can, it's just where I would caution, where it becomes a legal issue, right, quasi-judicial becomes a problem, because you're hearing evidence, oftentimes it'll be something that's visual that you look at, whether it's a schematic of a building or something
So
rather. So
yeah, sorry.
from that standpoint, the Attorney General opinions that give a lot of guidance on the remote participation. First, they say it should be in extraordinary circumstances, and then in cases when it does occur, it should be with an interactive type system where you're able to see each other and converse, and then obviously be able to see. So for quasi-judicial, the risk you run there is if you have an applicant that somehow is denied what they're looking for, and they could bring up some due process issues because they're entitled to an impartial and a present judge, essentially, what you are in a quasi-judicial. And if you can't effectively see the evidence and hear the evidence through the phone, that vote essentially may be challengeable. So technically, can you? Yes, but it's typically not recommended if you're going to be relying on anything that's visual or anything that's really substantive that's being presented to you here physically.
But as we do in court with remote hearings, there are ways of where, let's say I'm sick, I'm on Zoom, if we can make that happen.
Right.
And the applicant can upload, can they interact?
Yes.
So right, because other municipalities are doing that, right? So-
Right. Well, we saw that during COVID, especially where there were quasi-judicial hearings that were taking place remotely.
Not here,
And-
but yeah.
Right, correct. So that has been done, and that's interactive enough where it's potential. Again, ideal is always physical because you're the judges of the facts and you're judges of the witnesses that speak with you. So it's kind of hard to read. It's like doing a deposition via video. It's not as effective as if you do it live.
And
So
we
it's
have-
always preferable to be live, but Zoom does offer a good alternative with regards to the interaction that's required.
Yeah, I mean, I've done many hearings on Zoom. I've only been back to physical court twice since COVID. Like, everything else has been Zoom, and it's very workable if everybody knows what they're doing, right? So, I mean, I think if we have some kind of interactive thing like that, I'm okay with quasi-judicial being done remotely, but on the phone, I don't think so. I don't think so. But otherwise, I think, I mean, our standard has been, do your best to be here, and if you can listen in, then take your shot. But I agree that, and I don't know if we have been voting on quasi-judicial on the phone. I can't think of that, but I don't think we should.
I don't think we have. No.
Okay.
We've had very few instances. This isn't in response to some problem that we're having.
Right.
This is just to define it. Vice Mayor?
Right.
Very quiet.
Yeah. Yes. Well, when we discuss these issues, we're not only discussing it for now, we're discussing it for
course.
future commissions as well. So you might have a person who looks to take advantage of the Zoom meetings or whatever, even though, they're able to be here. They make, they look to not be here. So what are we going to do? Look for excused absences? You have to bring a doctor's note or, so time after time, someone could say, I'd like to just be on Zoom.
Right.
So how do you address that then?
Well, that is that's
Maybe
what I
you-
want to talk about is that, because I think that if you shouldn't be able to, because then, like you said, after a while, it may become everyone starts taking turns being on Zoom. Well, if I wanted to potentially go on vacation in June, I may just say I have something going on. I'm not saying that somebody's going to lie, but once it starts going that direction, it becomes easier because, as we saw during COVID, all of a sudden everything became Zoom, and a lot of people stayed on it despite the fact that they didn't have to, just because it was more convenient. But I don't think that it's always the best way to operate, and as the city attorney said, it should be extraordinary circumstances.
And that's the guidance provided by Florida law. It's
That-
not where it's convenient and I'd prefer it.
Right.
It's extraordinary circumstances.
So if we all decide to be on Zoom, we could have 2 commission meetings a month
No.
from our
because-
houses?
No, you have to
No.
be for a
Have
physical
a
quorum.
right.
Commissioner Stevenson, did you have anything? Okay.
I just want to clarify something. I think that maybe, just like we have an allotment of absences, perhaps there should be an allotment of, I would say, 2 Zoom participation in the commission meetings. I don't know. I'm just throwing something out there. But, I mean, obviously, times are changing, and we need to think about like Jerry said, you know, we need to be forward-thinking and think about the future. So, I mean, I think that people that run here, we're all adults, we're all responsible, and most of the time we're here unless there's an emergency or something came up. But yeah, perhaps we could look at you know, an allotment of 2 days where you could participate via Zoom. Obviously,
I would not support that. I think that you can always, you know, if you wanted to, if you had an emergency, you can call in and listen in. But in order to participate, I strongly believe you should be present in order to vote.
No, I
Because
agree
just
too,
don't-
yeah.
I don't think that adding an allotment of days not to come opens a door of
Never being here.
Look, we can all say we all here are really great and responsible, but every commission thinks that they're the responsible ones.
yeah, but the flip side of that, I mean, we go through the agenda review, we look at the issues, right? And if you are, because of an emergency, you're participating through Zoom, right? And you could look at all the schematics, you could have all the information in front of you. Your vote should count. That's what I'm saying. So I think you got to look at the other side of it too, and take it into consideration. That's what I'm saying.
So,
If I may, Commissioner Lama, I don't disagree with you, but I would make the exception for the quasi-judicial. Only because evidence is being presented, and especially if you're on the phone, you don't see it. And I mean, I think you can listen in and opine, but I think on the quasi-judicial, we should draw the line.
so I have one more.
Could be, yeah.
So who is it that would decide on excused absences? Is it the mayor or the city manager?
We would have to come up with a criteria, so, but again, you have 6, so I don't think that, you know, this isn't a response to anyone, you know, chronically not being here. It's more about the participation and what
Right.
defines extraordinary.
That actually comes down to what you all decide as a group.
So illness,
Yeah, typically, I
sick
mean, those are the
child.
things you see, the illnesses, you know, out of the country on business, or out of the state on business, out of the jurisdiction on business, you know, but maybe once a year. That really, and there are circumstances that'll be presented to you that are unique that you haven't thought of, and you as a body can decide whether it's excused or not excused.
And is it required to be verified?
Well, that's up to you all. And again, some
I mean,
jurisdictions,
you know, it gets silly, right?
some jurisdictions make it a lot more formal, and they actually vote at the beginning of the commission meeting to determine whether it's an excused or unexcused absences. Other jurisdictions just have a predetermined list.
So, all right, so that we don't keep belaboring this, would you be able to just, for next time, or maybe even outside the meeting, just give us some examples of some of those other jurisdictions and what they do, so that we can just look at it and see if it's something that we want to even consider?
We attached a couple today. Those are sort of the prevalent ones that I've seen. They're pretty consistent. I mean, we can, if a majority of the commission is interested, we could try to craft something for your consideration.
May I ask a question, just, and then yes, and then I promise we can move on. Okay, so if I call in and I say I have, and you say, I guess the process would be, how do you, you know, what is your reason? I guess I would have to be on record with that, and I say I have an extraordinary desire to stay on my couch, right? I would assume that I would be voted as not an excused absence, right? Does that mean then I can't vote because
Correct.
it's unexcused? That's what this means.
Correct. So you're,
But if
you're
you
a-
guys determine that that is an extraordinary circumstance, then I can stay on the phone and I can vote.
that would be up, well,
That's-
you're correct on the first statement that obviously if it's an unexcused absence, you wouldn't be able to participate because it's not excused.
So I can't even listen in, or I can't vote?
Well, you can listen in.
Okay.
Right, you couldn't vote.
On
But-
anything?
Correct. But if it's excused at that point, then it would be up to you all to decide as
Now we're
to,
setting
again,
parameters.
you've qualified it with regards to quasi-judicial,
there
maybe
yet.
you put in a restriction that quasi-judicial you can't. So I've seen circumstances where a whole commission meeting's gone forward and a commissioner participated, but there were 3 items they couldn't vote on because they were quasi-judicial.
I think if you can't see it, but then I guess maybe if you're watching it on TV, like that's the stuff we would have to hammer out. Like if you're on the phone, but you can see the stuff on TV, I don't know, does that qualify? I don't know. But okay. Yeah, I'm good. Thank you.
don't think we have any consensus here, so unless we do. If we can get just a little bit more examples or information that we can consider, and maybe I'll put something together as well that can be shared with the rest of the commission.
We'll try to find some more.
Thank you, please, because
I think when you have residents coming up to the podium, the best, the ideal situation is to be able to interact. Even though we don't respond, the interaction is what they're looking for.
Right, and
To have a
that
body here
that
listening
was-
to their complaint.
or compliment. That was my point. They want to see you respond to them. So, okay. Next item, I think, Commissioner Stevenson, is you.
Yeah, it's about the timeline for the master plan. I want to request if we can move it forward to have the results earlier than expected. So, because right now I'm a little bit frustrated that after the whole year of the working in the Park and Recreation Master Plan, we are not going to be able to include it in this year's budget, in the 23-24. So that means that we have to wait until 23-24 to include their findings and their results. Is there a way that we can make sure that whatever they're going to bring to us is sooner than later, so it can be considered in this year's budget? So I don't know if we have anybody who can answer that right now.
Well, I think that we can ask that the results be moved up, but also think probably the best course of action is during our budget discussions, if we allot a sum of money as a placeholder for future implementation of the plan.
Okay.
That's an option.
That we can consider then the findings and then work during the year with that specific amount of money.
Correct.
Okay. And second, I wanted to talk about the PCP membership. I want to read very fast because I know it's late, so I don't want to take so long in this. The requirements. So it says once you become a member of the park membership, it gives you priority registration in most programs, athletic, etc. It gives you a discount of up to 30% on most programs, athletic, etc. It allows you to use the computer lab, the fitness center, and the gymnasium, and it's open to all members. It costs, for example, for a child, non-resident, $51.40. However, it gave them the opportunity to register at the same time than our residents. So just to give you an example, right now, if you want to register for gymnastics, the begins for residents June 5th, and for non-residents, June 5th as well. And it gives you a $50 discount if you have the PCP membership. So basically, when you get a membership and you register, it's free, the membership. So I don't understand why are we doing this to our residents when, for example, right now for the summer camp, the soccer is waitlisted. The basketball is waitlisted. The futsal is waitlisted, like lawn tennis and also junior lifeguard. For youth athletics, for example, cheerleading is waitlisted and volleyball as well to all ages. Not only that, for our youth athletic cheerleader right now, for residents, is $195. And for non-residents, it's $195. Volleyball for residents, $240. For non-residents, $240, the same amount. So I don't know why are we doing this to our residents. Senior summer camp, for residents, $40. For non-residents, $40. Why, again, and the funny thing is that in our master recreation plan last month, the only part that they had a comment about was precisely Pelican, and I quote, "We need to reimagine Pelican Community Park to increase capacity. Right now, we are allowing anyone to come, giving the same price. We are not giving, I think we are doing a disservice to our residents." And also, the after school study hall For residents, it's $150, and for non-residents, it's $150. And technically, we shouldn't even have non-residents because our school is supposed to be for our residents. It's capped right now. Even our residents cannot go to our school because it's overcrowded. So if you buy across the street in Aqualina, $10 million apartment, guess what? Your children cannot cross the street to go to school because we have people coming from everywhere, which is another conversation. But if you have the membership, guess what? They give you $50 discount. So I think this is a discussion that we should have more in depth. I don't see the point of having a PCP membership. I don't think I can make a motion, but I would like to make a motion just to eliminate the PCP membership because I don't think it's doing anything for our residents at this point. And that's the conversation I wanted to have.
I have some.
One second. Go ahead.
I'd like to look into that because the publication does have different non-resident rates, and I think that that may have been an issue when it was entered into a separate, so our software system is RecPro, and activities is a separate like page. So you're leaving our website, you're going to this other thing. So I would like to look into that because when I look up the publication of Live and Play, it clearly shows a difference in rates between resident and non-resident. So I'm not sure where you got that. I need to look into that a little bit more.
Okay, I can clarify. Yeah, I can clarify if I may. Right now, during the meeting, I got these numbers from our website as of right now, during this meeting, and that's what you use to register. Like you have to click, and then it takes you to all the different steps. So I got all these numbers that I can share, if you understand.
No,
from as of right now. Yeah.
Right, I totally went on, and that's what I mean. This is activities. It's a separate page, which is a separate software. It looks like ours because it has our logo. I need to go and look in and see, is it a typo, like our staff entered it wrong, or is it a glitch with that software?
So you're saying there's a
system?
mistake there?
There's definitely a mistake.
Okay.
We will find out what that is and rectify that, because there's very clearly a resident and non-resident
So is this like going to
Thank
the
you.
supermarket?
Including with the dates?
How long has it been like
Wait,
that?
one second.
Including for what? No, the dates, they can register at different time. Residents always get priority registration.
And now for gymnastics, as it is right now.
So I think we agree here that we really would like residents to pay less, residents to have a window where they can register first.
Yes.
And that has historically always been the case. So if there's been a mistake there, please let us know and correct it.
Yes,
Yes.
definitely.
But-
And then we will look further into the member benefits and provide you with, all of you with a report on what that is and what our recommendation is, why we would keep it or that we recommend.
Yeah, and just for the record, I'm a member and I get a discount. And do not take my discount. So I'm just
Well,
saying.
maybe as a resident and with your resident card, you're gonna have the discount and you don't need to have the membership. I just think the membership doesn't do anything for us.
It does, it gives us a discount.
Yeah, exactly, which it pays for the membership.
Right, so it's good.
Right.
No, $50 discount for a $50 membership to everyone, including non-residents. That's my point. So let's give the discount as it is to our people,
Well,
not to. I don't think we need a
All
membership.
right, I think, okay, so I think that perhaps if you can please just put together a report for us as to the thinking behind this, because there's obviously some confusion, so, okay.
Absolutely.
Could do that for the next meeting.
Yes.
Did you have something you wanted to add?
If I could say also, I'd like there to be enough of a difference that it causes residents to have a great preference as to availability rather than non-residents.
And in that report, if you could actually include who's on the waiting list, I think that that's important data for us to understand, so that we have a better understanding of you know, I instinctively believe that there's a very high demand for all of our programming just based on the years that I've been myself on the waiting list. So I don't know the answer to that. How many of those people that are on the waiting list versus how many were, let's just skip them, that were not residents. If we can get that information, as well, just the numbers, not the people, obviously.
I have
Okay.
another question. If the services were available only to residents, are there enough spaces just for residents?
No, if every school-aged children or every adult wanted to register for a program, we would not have enough
So-
space for everyone.
Okay, so we would still have a waiting list for residents.
It is possible, it depends on what the program is. Some are
Mhm.
very popular, like soccer.
Right.
The junior lifeguard too.
Junior lifeguard camp.
All right, so, public forum?
We have one more.
Go ahead,
Yes,
sorry.
and I have a question.
You're not on
Okay,
the agenda.
So about the building department, I think that,
Finish with the
I think Derek was going to give us a little bit update today or not? About the digital process. No, we are not talking about that one?
We understood this discussion item was on staffing.
Okay.
Not
Okay,
the
perfect,
digit.
okay. So, sorry, Derek. So, I believe it's been a challenge to find qualified people and hire people for the building department. And apparently, we had the need for more people. So what I wanted to bring to the commission is maybe the idea of giving signing bonuses. So like we did with the officers, with the police officers, that we wanted to hire more people and we were able to get full staff. Maybe one way that we can incentivize people to come to work in our building department, which is, I believe, one of the departments that has the most strong need for new blood, it will be those signage bonuses. So I just wanted to bring it out to you guys.
Go ahead.
Mayor, if I may.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Please.
that's an administrative function of the manager's office. We're reviewing it. We are currently doing a pay study of the building department, but we have looked at the potential for a sign-on bonus, and we are going to implement something like that.
Okay.
These are highly technical, specialized positions that many cities are having difficulty in recruiting. Building department inspectors and chiefs. But we will be implementing a type of sign-on bonus program.
Okay, thank you.
I'd just like to...
Please, go ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I'd like to get back to the master plan if we could.
Wait.
Since it was opened up, and I didn't have the opportunity to ask a question regarding the master plan.
The Parks master
plan.
Okay, go ahead.
Okay. So Fabiola, I know that you have some idea regarding the tennis courts on the south side of the city
Okay.
that caused that property to get wrapped into the master plan. Because for my thinking, and it's a sore spot with me, because I know myself that we could have had shovels in the ground already over there.
Okay.
So would you please tell me what your opposition is, since you live in a community that has tennis courts and basketball, to having residents have their first public tennis court in the city?
Okay, I believe we don't need the shovels if we put it under the causeway. It's already
No, no,
ready
this
to
is a
put it in
different-
there.
the causeway is going to take years. I'm talking about the property on the south side of the city where we could have had tennis courts already under construction.
Vice Mayor, I think we talked about this already. Commissioner Stevenson's item was more of an update about the Parks Master Plan. This has been covered, and your request and opposition to what others have said is duly noted, and it's appreciated. And I think that you'll get another bite at that apple when we're talking about this at a later time. So let's move on. Do we have any?
I just wanted to make a comment
Sure.
on the building department stuff. That it's my understanding, and correct me if I'm wrong, but the municipalities are basically getting their butts kicked by the private sector, who are, to whom municipalities sometimes outsource, and that's part of the problem with the staffing. Is that correct?
Yes, it is.
Okay, and also, I don't know if Derek was here to talk about, so if you've been waiting all night to not talk because you thought you were gonna talk, I think we should give
Mayor,
you a shot, okay?
Mayor,
but-
if I may,
but okay.
I think now is a good time to kind of revisit, the roles of the manager. If
Thank
you or the fellow members of the commission would like to address staff, the proper way is to funnel it through me. And we've had plenty of time to discuss these different things in our numerous agenda reviews. So I'm hesitant to bring staff up for question and answer, but it should be directed through me. And if I feel like there's something that Derek needed to share, then I would ask him to come up.
I appreciate that, and I agree with that. I'm trying very, very diligently to stick to our rules so that we're consistent, so thank you for stating that. Okay.
Mayor, can I have the floor for just one?
Yes, you may.
Few seconds. Before we go into the citizens forum portion of the agenda, I just wanted to take a second to remind the residents that we have a special election
Thank
coming
you.
up on Tuesday, as you can see on the screens. More importantly is that 2 polling locations were changed. The one at St. Mary Magdalene Church and the Winston Towers polling location have been temporarily changed to the Gateway Center. So if you vote in either of those 2 precincts, please be sure to head over to the Gateway Center if you intend to vote in person on Tuesday.
Thank you. Do we have any?
So with that, we have David Virgil.
Can I have a plug-in too?
You may plug something,
All right.
but now it's
Hey,
David's
David.
time.
Sorry, thank you,
So
David.
make it quick,
Yeah,
please.
real quick. No, I just wanted to remind people that we have the senior roundtable next week, Wednesday, at Gateway Center at 12 p.m. So please come by. We're going to have a very good session on Wednesday.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Please, David, your name and address for the record.
Okay, my name is David Virgil. My address is 17500 North Bay Road, Sunny Isles Beach. And I noticed that for the anniversary celebration, there won't be a fireworks show this year. There's going to be a drone show instead. And I was wondering, since there's going to be 3 different locations for the celebration, will there only be one central location for the drone show, or will it be visible from each location? And one more thing that's not really important, I noticed that the Sunny Isles flag, it's a little bit sagging on the pole, and it's been like that for a few meetings, and I just wanted to mention that.
Okay. Thank you, David, and it is important, and I want to say for the record that I speak for this entire commission that we do appreciate that you attend every single meeting and keep us honest. Susan, if we can either give an update or perhaps this is a good indication that we're not giving out enough information to the public so they have an understanding of what to expect, or is it a surprise?
I think maybe a surprise.
It's not a surprise.
Okay.
More information is actually coming very soon. Like, I think it's scheduled to go out tomorrow. And you will be able to see the drone show from all 3 locations.
Okay, thank you so
There's
much.
also, just as an FYI, what will be coming out is that there's 3 different food types at the 3 different locations.
Yeah,
So
I
you
noticed
will
on the
need to-
website that
Okay.
it's already mentioned.
So you
Thank
will need to make that decision when you
Before.
register.
Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you. Do we have any more? All right.
That's all, Mayor.
With that, this meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.